Welcome to the Players Deck episode 234. I'm your host, Justin DeSimone, joined by my co-host, Montrell Rice. Montrell, how are you this week, my friend?
It's been a slow week, but I was off this week too. So I was off not this week, but Monday and Tuesday. So it's been a
Oh,
really
okay.
slow week for me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the total opposite end of the spectrum for me. I have been busy as fucking balls the last few weeks. So, um, I had to paint my room a second time. Most of the walls. We fortunately the one coat did the ceiling and one of the walls pretty well. So, but we had to go do the other three again. So we had to move everything around again. And I'm just now at the point today where it's dry enough where I can actually start putting shit back. So I'm gonna start doing that hopefully soon and get back to some amount of normalcy in my room. But yeah, it's been fun. Work has been busy as fuck. I've got like 4 projects going all at the same time, and one of the people on my team quit. So a couple weeks ago, so I have less resources and more to do. It's go Things are going great. Woo! So but we're making do. What about you? Anything in your personal life fun going on, or is it just boring, just the grind, daily grind?
Yeah, I started back like going working out seriously. So I've been getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning or 5:30 in the morning, so I can be at the gym by 6.
Jesus Christ.
Um,
I don't know why you're
my
getting off so
goal is
early.
yeah, my goal is by the end of the month. I'm gonna start taking boxing classes and lessons and stuff like that. So I'm gonna get into boxing. Nothing like competitive, just like,
Yeah, to work out.
yeah, work out and spar for fun.
I mean, it's supposedly like one of the best workouts you can do. So
Yeah. So I always been interested in boxing since I was like young, but I never really got into it. I
Mhm.
have no idea why, to be honest with you. I think I just never expressed it to my parents.
Yeah.
But I always been into boxing. So
Okay.
no time like the present. So I was just like, I called a couple places. They asked me like, I told them my age off rip, and they're like, "Yeah, we have people who are 60 who are coming in boxing for the first time, so that's the issue." And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Word. All right. Well, why don't we just get right into it this week? You've got an interesting game on your games played list that I want to talk about. So, all right, everybody. So, for those of you who have not listened before, this is our weekly show where we talk about video games, video game news, and other topics pertaining to video games. We post at 6 a.m. Central Time on Fridays on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and your favorite podcast app of choice. And if you'd like to send us questions, you can do so on Twitter, or you can send us an email to theplayerstake01@gmail.com. All right. Well, let's start like usual with what we've been playing. So I'll go first because I was saying before the show, like I've barely been able to play shit uh, the last few weeks, but especially the last week in particular. So it's mostly just Tactics Ogre still uh, grinding through this game, trying to get the platinum, and I'm hitting my wall. I'll just say that, I guess. I think I'm gonna put the game down for a while. I'm probably gonna come back and finish it in like a year or something. It won't be a permanent put down, but I just, dude, I'm feeling the need to play something else. And the new Path of Exile season league comes out tomorrow, and I kind of want to dive into that, honestly. So I think I am going to probably do that this weekend, and put Tactics Ogre to rest for now because it's a great game. I'm enjoying it a lot. I think this is a good remake ultimately, but there's just so much to do. It's like, dude, this is a game that has an absolute fucking glut of content in it. Like, it's absolutely asinine how much there is to do. So yeah, I've kind of hit my limit there, and otherwise, I haven't really been playing much else. I did play Apex once on Sunday with you guys.
Hmm.
We did get a win, and it was fun. I enjoyed myself. I think that's the only way I'm going to be able to enjoy Apex anymore is the just to randomly dip in every once in a while. I
Yeah.
can't play it every night. I cannot. By the end of that session, I was like, and I think we only played 11 or 12 games.
Hmm.
But I'll be honest with you, by the end of it, I was really just like, oh,
Well, I
no,
actually didn't
you know.
even. I think that's like the best thing for us. I think we could play it like maybe twice a week.
Yep.
And I haven't asked anybody to jump back in because I was just like, yeah, I think that's their limit. Like, for
Limited to
I think that's going to be
two or
our
three
limit for like,
hours, and yeah.
yeah, I think that's going to be our limit for like any multiplayer game going forward. It's probably about 2 or 3 hours, maybe once or twice a night or week, and then we just do our own thing because yeah, it's just mentally, unless we're just having so much fun with the game or whatever. But it's just like mentally
Mhm.
straining. Those
Yeah.
competitive multiplayer games are so.
Yeah. And with Armored Core coming out next week, probably gonna be
Yeah,
co-op in that. So
I'm gonna be MIA for like that's why I was trying to play a lot of games with y'all because next week or actually tomorrow, Cyberpunk comes out, so I'm gonna be playing that.
ooh, yes,
And
nice.
then yeah,
Hate
Armored
it.
Core comes out next week. And then the next week after that, or 2 weeks after that, Starfield comes out. So I'm gonna be MIA.
Well, Baldur's Gate 3 also comes out in
Oh
3
yeah, that's
weeks on
right.
PlayStation as well.
And we're still
Um,
trying to decide if we're gonna play that. Um
yeah, so I was thinking about that. We were talking about streaming. Like, we should just play that co-op.
yeah, I think that would be dope.
Yeah, that would. I think that'd be a great first game to play together. So, but yeah, no, Armored Core next week. I'm planning on buying it more than likely. So, don't blast off to the moon without me.
Okay.
I'll just say that. And yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much all I've been playing. Apex is Apex. It's got more problems than it should have for a game as old as it is now. What are we at? 4.5 years old?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
It
it's
still
it's
has
kind
some
of
problems.
embarrassing some of the problems that are lingering multiple seasons in a row now that they just let go.
Yeah.
They're not releasing characters every season now, which, I know you guys are saying like it's great, we don't need any more characters. The roster's big enough, but from my perspective, like this is a live service game. I'm not saying they have to release new characters every season, but that effort better show somewhere else, in my opinion, it clearly does not. The battle pass is as boring and stale as it's been for 10 seasons.
Yeah, that was
And
a real disappointment. The last 2 months of or last 2 seasons of Battle Passes have been really bad.
yeah, and then they have one of those like little mini events going on where you need to get like 5,000 points and you get a thing on it. And I opened it when we were playing, and I'm like, dude, they literally give you like 100 crafting materials, a couple useless charms, like a banner badge, and like that's it. You don't get anything else. Like it's like one gun skin and like a character skin. And it's like,
Yeah.
dude, like are you guys even trying anymore? Like no wonder why Apex is at an all-time low in terms of player count. Like holy shit. The game's in bad shape, man. I just don't
Well,
like
a lot of the
yeah.
community feels different now. They feel like it's in a good shape.
I mean, the
They do
game
feel
is
like it's
fun to play. I'm not saying that's the problem necessarily. Like the balance felt fine actually. I actually think the balance felt better than it's felt in a while. I didn't feel like there
yeah.
was anything super oppressive. That I think they've gotten there with that certainly, and it's taken a long time to get there. But dude, the game itself as a service,
Oh
offering
yeah.
shit for players to buy, like it's a fucking joke, Like,
Yeah.
and that's the lifeblood of the game. If that shit doesn't sell, then they're fucking done. They're underwater. The game's gonna shut down. So I don't know.
You know, I do agree. Like the collection events are really bad. Um, I guess technically they did a rework this season for Revenant, which I think it was a decent rework. It's way
Yeah,
better than his old version of himself. I
definitely.
still miss his silence. I still think they could have kept his silence on his pounce or something like that. Like if he jumped on an
Yeah.
opponent, he silenced them, which would have been
Hmm.
like a really risk reward type situation. Um, but whatever the case, I like his rework. He's a demon, like fucking 1v1, so you gotta watch out for that.
Yeah,
Um,
which I like that. I think that fits the character a lot more. I
yeah,
will say, to your point though, the silence still fits that 1v1 domination kind of play style.
yeah,
And I do think the silence was a good ability. I just think it's not good enough on its own. And with some of the newer characters they have been making, where they're shoving so much shit into their kit, as much as possible, I do feel like I'm not saying they should have given him a third ability, or a second tactical necessarily, but kind of.
I think they should have gave him a secondary passive on one of his tactical.
Yeah, something that triggers the silence to shoot off, you know,
Yeah. Or
doing
that new
something.
overheat mechanic they gave ballistic. It could have been like an
Yeah.
overheat thing where, if you pounce on them, they overheat, their gun overheats because they're trying to shoot you, and then you have an advantage on that. That's like the risk reward situation of using the pounce in that manner.
Yeah.
Um, in my opinion. But I don't think he's gonna get buffed because like a lot of people like where he's at right now. But I think he needed something like different or whatever. In my opinion. But uh, besides that, yeah, I think he's okay. I think the state of Apex as like playing the game, I really do like playing the game now more than I did in last season. Uh, despite the couple games we were running into, I think the state of Apex when you are stacked, where you have a team to play with,
Mhm.
like you guys, is
Yeah.
okay. You run into a couple of hackers here and there, or we run into a couple of like people who are not supposed to be in our elo. Especially when we're playing with you, I noticed a huge jump in our player like skill when we were playing with you compared to like it was just me, Jet, and Brad.
Really?
Yeah, it was really
What?
hard for me. For me,
What the
maybe I was
fuck?
just maybe I was doing really
What?
bad that day.
Dude, I
For me,
haven't
I was
played
struggling.
dude, I've barely played the game. That's crazy that you
Yeah,
that you feel that way. I barely played the game in the last year.
yeah.
Like that shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, it shouldn't. It should have like a diminishing
Also,
MMR.
I'm not like the best player in our group. Not by a long shot.
I think it still holds. In my opinion, like when me and you were playing, with me, you and Brad was playing, right? Or was it Snakes? I can't
It was
remember.
Brad.
Me, you, and Brad were playing. I was running to a lot more masters and diamonds. And I know it's a lot of fake masters out there because of last season, but we were running to a lot more diamonds.
Yeah.
Um, And now when I play by myself, since I've been playing with Mark, I just run into diamonds constantly or old diamonds now constantly since I've been playing with Mark. Um, but I was playing with you before I was playing with Mark, and I was starting to notice like the skill jump
Yeah.
go a little bit higher or whatever. So I don't know what's going on. And then it could be just because of the low retention count right now of players. When I do play with PC people, we only play with other PC people or people who are playing with PC in like a mixed console party or whatever. That's pretty much all you play against. Because when I'm playing by myself, that's what I really don't like. I don't like the state. Solo Apex is abysmal. It's one of the worst experiences in my entire life, like worse than League. It's that toxic.
Oh my god.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's probably because I play with players or I play with you guys, so I'm constantly communicating or I'm constantly hearing stuff. Um, and I don't mind a ping system or whatever. It's just the way. It's a combination of things. It's the combination of last season and the combination of just playing solo. It's just solo in multiplayer games, but it's so exacerbated in this game because people do not fight in ranked at all.
Yeah.
They don't fight. There was a situation where um I have multiple screenshots. Like I could post them in there. I took screenshots just to show proof. I have multiple games where I'm 2k damage and my teammates are like 100, 200 damage because they refuse to fight, bro.
Yeah.
Like they just refuse to fight. I won the game. Like I 1v3 the team by myself. Actually, I lied. It was 2v3. One of our teammates ran off and died by himself, and me and this Horizon was just playing with each other. And I was sniping with the bow check. Like, yeah, I had to use the fucking bow check, and I was using that
Great
gun. And,
weapon. What the fuck?
I mean, I'm not good with it. I'm not saying it's a bad
Oh,
weapon. I'm just
so
not good
good.
with it.
Dude.
Yeah, I'm not good with it. But I got 2k damage with that weapon.
Take it out the
Uh,
fucking care package, please.
but I was using it, and yeah, yeah, we ended up winning that game. We 2v3 a team or whatever. Because people just don't fight, man. Like it's actually insane how people just refuse to fight. Or they'll do
Mhm.
this weird thing where me and a teammate will sort of we have a general sense of like, all right, we're gonna go in this same direction, and then both of us will start running. Then a random teammate will just do their own fucking thing and then die. And I'm like, why are y'all doing that? You know what I'm saying? Also, if I pick Wraith, people shit talk me all the time. They think I'm going to jump in when I don't.
Yeah.
because it's just the nature of rape players, I guess. So I don't really pick that character anymore because it's too toxic to pick that character because people are already expecting you to be toxic.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a weird state. Last season really fucked up like player mentality. In my opinion, I know the season before that it was like a hurry up and go 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 type deal. Um, and a lot of people didn't like that, and I was complaining about it too. Um, if I can get a mix of that season and like
Hmm.
this season, I would love for people to fight again. That's all I want. I just want people to fight again. Even when me, you, and Jet, or me, Brad, and Jet are playing, people refuse to fight each other. They are like scared as fuck. When we roll up on a team and we're just firing at them or whatever,
Oh yeah.
they fucking freak out and they just don't know what the fuck they're doing anymore after that.
No, it's
And we
such a
probably look like
weird.
a hacker squad because
Yeah,
hacker
it's
squads do that.
yeah, it's such a weird switch for this game because I don't understand why Respawn wanted their game to be this because we left PUBG because of this shit, you know.
Yeah,
Like our group did. You didn't really play PUBG with us back then too much, from what I remember, but we switched to Apex and it was such a breath of fresh air that it was kind of a run and gun game, you know.
yeah,
And eventually, that meta became toxic in the sense that it felt like everybody was just running at you. Like that was the meta. If somebody saw you, they just ran straight towards you and fucking mowed you down, you know? That
yeah,
was the meta from seasons like 4 through, I don't know, fucking whenever they made the match, the rank changes like a few seasons ago. That was the meta of the game, and it got really frustrating at a certain point because we're not that good. We're not good enough to like, punish people for that necessarily. So but then for them to make the changes they did, it kind of made sense at first, but the more we play it, man, dude, it is literally just PUBG Legends now. Like
yeah.
it's insane. Like you're totally right. People are scared as fuck, dude. Like if you push them, they will run. Like 90% of the time, they don't want to stand and fight you. You know, and the amount of circles we're in late in the game where there's 7 teams left, and you're literally in like close to the final circle, and everybody's just hiding behind their little crate or whatever cover they have, and then they wait for the final circle to start moving in before doing anything, and then everybody just fucking shoots the first team that's out of cover first. It's just a game of like luck now that you're in the right
Yeah.
position at the right time,
Yep.
for that final circle, because if you're not, you're going to die, and it's just it's not really like I feel like a lot of the strategy is gone now because it's really hard to push a position in the game, especially if people are playing defensive characters,
Oh yeah.
especially if they're in a building. God forbid that there's a building in the final fucking circle, dude. And I just don't. I don't know. I don't think it's a. I don't think it's the way the game should be. I don't think it should be the other way either. The pendulum was too far the other direction, but man, they got to find some middle ground because I'll be honest, I was getting a little bored towards the end of playing the other night, and we only won one game. It's not like we're dominating everybody, but it's just, dude, you're just running around looting for 15 minutes, and when you see a team and you push them a little bit, if you don't run their asses down, like really run them down, where you don't stop running at them until you catch them, they're gonna get away because they're just booking it, dude. Like full sprint. They don't even loot. They're not opening any doors. They're just running as fast as they can away from you, dude. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy that this is the meta now in this game. In a game like this that has the level of movement mechanics that it has, and the number of movement characters that it has, and the meta is to just sit still. That's fucking bonkers to me.
Yeah.
I can't believe that's where we are with Apex, but it is what it is. That's what it is. So
Yeah. It's not fun. So I have to use characters where I can chase people down like Loba,
mhm.
Ash, or I have to use like defense characters like Maggie and everything like that to where I can just chase people down and
Yeah,
kill them. Um
yeah, yeah. And I think I'm gonna go back to Vantage probably at some point when we start. If I keep playing with you guys,
mhm.
just for that sniper element. If people are gonna run away from me, then I'm just gonna gun them down as they run away.
Yeah,
Like fuck,
yeah.
like okay. I mean, sure, dude. I'll just stand here and shoot you. That's fine. You're gonna be a bitch. Like, so yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's
that's the meta.
interesting.
Um and I know it's not on the list, but I was just looking at League, and I think I'm just gonna I do want to play it again, but I'm gonna wait till season 14. They're supposedly making more big changes. Particularly they're talking about they're asking the community what they want to get rid of, and almost everyone unanimously is saying get rid of mythic items and just go back to the way it used to be.
Mm,
Um,
yeah,
because like we were talking about when we discussed it, the items are dictating the champions are dictating the items. The items are dictating how you play the champion, which shouldn't be the case in my opinion. It should
yeah,
be almost a combination of both. Like if you have a certain, because I remember I used to build like Tinkakali, right? Like that shit used to be fun as fuck. It wasn't necessarily meta, but it was just
yeah,
once you had the final build, it was really fucking fun to play Tinkakali. But you can't even do that now. Uh, it's just not. It's not in the meta for norms, or it's not in the meta, and people will hate it or whatever. And her mythics and everything like that. It's just
yeah.
it's not a good system. It's really toxic in my opinion. It's not fun to play around. Um, so I just been watching it, and a lot of people have been saying the same thing as well. Also, they did some weird thing like a couple weeks ago where they banned 25,000 scripters.
Wow.
So that was a thing,
Yeah.
apparently.
Jesus. Well,
So it
that's
kind
good.
of justifies what we were experiencing a couple months ago when we were
Hmm.
playing it.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot
Yeah.
of scripting.
I would like to see them getting rid of Mythicus would be great, but I think I just want to see them. I think the game is still too bursty.
Yeah,
And
that's
I know
another thing.
that's what they want their game to be, but
That's what, but the community hates it. The community's actually on our side with this one. They
okay.
think the game is way too fast. I think the game should go back to being 45 minutes average. That's what I
Yeah,
think.
and I think I know a lot of people don't want that, but you're you're sacrificing quality for quantity in my opinion, and I think that's what League has turned into. Is
Yeah,
I don't think we were not playing very many quality matches when we played League.
yeah,
I would say one or two a night out of 10, that we played were what I would consider a quality game that we all really enjoyed, us and
yeah.
the enemy team.
Yep.
And I always talk about Dota, and it's probably fucking eye rolly at this point, but like Dota embraces the long game or has embraced the long game, and that's their version of the MOBA. And I'm not saying they need to copy Dota like entirely, but I think they need to get closer to that game because I was watching like some pro matches a month or two ago, and when I was thinking about getting back into the game and just watching the game, and it's I don't think League doesn't need that level of complexity. That's not what I'm asking for at all. Dota's stupidly complex, like to the point that it's difficult for somebody like me that's played it before to even get back into it. That's how complicated it is. But I think there's a couple things in particular that Dota does that I just would like to see League embrace more, where Dota allows more skill expression out of their players because the game is longer. There's a slower pace. So the things that you do, you would argue matter less, but it means there's more room for error, I guess, for lower level players. I think League's pace is too fast to the point that it punishes people who aren't that good at the game. And we
Yes.
kind of hit a
Yeah.
skill ceiling with our group, and it became really frustrating to play because we were playing people that were like fucking League. It just felt like everybody's a League lifer. They know every fucking character, they know every fucking counter. They know exactly what to do against you, how to play against you, and it's like, dude, we're not that good. We've been playing for like 3 months. And I think that a longer game would allow more room for error. It would allow more room for comebacks. I think it would reduce the amount of surrendering that people would do. And the other thing I would love to encourage them to do is, I know there was a tank update, a few years ago, or durability update, whatever the fuck they called it, where they made every character a little bit hardier. Well, I think they need to take that to a larger extreme. In my opinion, because that's the reason Dota is so good, is because it is really hard to kill people fast in Dota. Um, there's a lot of damage going out, but there's also a lot of mitigation. There's a lot of health regeneration happening, health per second. There's a lot of healing. And if you play the game right, if you're playing well, you can survive a lot of punishment in Dota, as certain characters. And I just think League should embrace that a little bit more too. Like, give characters more HP, um, give a little bit more armor. Make some stop putting your character types into lanes as well, by the way. And I don't mean the actual lanes. I mean item lanes where you can only buy this certain set of items. These items are designed for your type of character, you know?
Yeah.
The fucking marksman, caster, tank bullshit, and support, what they do with it. Be more like agnostic with the item designs, because Dota has items that are designed for certain types of characters, but there are characters that use items that are off of what they are. You know, there are tank type characters that use DPS items. There are DPS characters that use tank items. You know, and I'd like to see that a little bit more. The thing is, I have no faith in Riot because they've shown me over the 6 months we were playing this game that they have no idea how to balance items. Like no idea. Like they because we would run into those problems where there was the whole fighter meta, you know, with top laners in
Hmm.
low elo where they were using tank items whether it made sense for their character or not, and they would just dominate the game and take the game over, you know.
Yeah.
um and like I don't want to see that necessarily either. So it's like there's a give and take here. But I think ultimately if you make characters tankier across the board, I think the game will have a lot more, the battles will be more interesting, I guess. You won't just win with your opening salvo because your burst is so high, you know? It's like it's so easy for an ADC to just get blown up, you know? And a lot of them are
Well,
slow and don't have movement abilities, so they can't get out of shit. It's like if you make that
what's
mistake, the battle's over, you know?
what's funny is when we left, it was the start of the ADC meta, and now that has just continued to dominate, and everyone's saying like ADCs are way too powerful, or the game revolves around bot lane, too much. Which I know that was their goal, to get the game to revolve around bot lane because it is the carry. But yeah, I agree. Like I feel like there just needs to be some kind of middle ground. Um,
Yeah, and I
I
think they need
I
to stop doing shit like that. Like, dude, the game shouldn't revolve around the ADC. It shouldn't revolve around anybody in particular. It's a 5-player game. Like there's 5 people on the fucking team. They should all have equal impact. Like, I don't know
yeah.
why they think that's a good way to design the fucking game where you make the top laner suck dick and they're useless. Like, what who the fuck's gonna play top then? Like, and they did this shit to you with jungle, dude. Like like who wants to play jungle? Jungle's already hard to learn and play, and you're gonna make the role not have the impact that it used to have. Like what the why nobody's gonna fucking play
Yeah,
it, dude?
like
Like,
that was that weird meta where there was no point in jungling. It was just ganking constantly.
yeah, yeah,
That was a terrible meta. I hate that meta. That
yeah,
was really
man.
bad.
And I just don't understand why they like go in these directions, man. It's like you shouldn't be like
Honestly,
singling
bro,
out one role and fucking making them uber every patch, you know?
I tried to be like the boomer gamer or whatever, but I think this team is still. I think their leadership is still there. Um, but I think like a lot of the balancing team in particular, I feel like a lot of them are new, or they just got there within the last 5 years or whatever, so they
Yeah,
don't really understand league. They really wanted to come in and change it and make it their own, version of league or whatever.
yeah.
But
Well,
I
maybe
just
the
don't
game
like.
needs a reset too, you know, of
Yeah,
some sort. You know, like an actual hard reset. I don't know what that looks like, but they might have just been designing this game too long, you know, and it's been in this cycle for 13, 14 years now, and it gets to a point where it's like dizzying. You don't even know what you're doing anymore, you know, because you've done so much of this shit. So I don't
yeah,
know.
and I think the mythics were supposed to be that hard reset, in my opinion. The mythic and the rune changes were like legitimate like resets for the
Hmm.
game. Um, but I don't think they did it correctly. I think they resolved. I think that I actually like the rune changes. For newer players, it's easier to get into, and then for older players, it's like for returning players, it's easier to get into. And then you don't need to buy all those little runes or whatever, and be at a disadvantage if you don't have the runes for your rune pages or whatever.
Yeah,
So I actually like that change. The problem is like we said, it's the items. I think the items are completely busted. I think they need to do something about that. Um, and they just need
yeah,
to stop making their champions because what they're doing now is the opposite of Apex, right? They're overloading their champion kits to compensate for like the weak itemization. So
Yep.
you'll get like Milio who does like 500 things on this fucking queue, and you're like, bro, like what is this character doing? Or like for instance, Aphelios who has 16 fucking weapons and 16 combinations and stuff like that. And you're like, bro, like what happened to QWER? That's all I need to know in my
Yeah.
passive. That was it.
Yeah.
Now I need to know 5 billion things on top of this, and I don't know.
Yeah, and I
So
mean a character can be niche, you know? Like it doesn't have
yeah,
to
it
do
doesn't have to
everything.
follow that mantra, but it's like when you're starting making all your characters like that, um, like someone did a video comparing like old League of Legend characters or ones that haven't been updated to the new ones, to where like their passes are like one sentence, and then like now passes are like 4 or 5 paragraphs, and it's like, why do we need all that? Like I
Yep.
understand it sometime, but it's just like put some of that complexity into your items, and that way, it can be a little bit balanced for both. And like you said, it's just slow the game down. It's too much damage in the game. Again, like this is where we, this is why they had a durability update,
Yeah.
and now they just put more damage back into the game again, and it's like an inflation of damage. And people are just getting one shot everywhere. And like the one item I read to you guys, that fucking item, I was just like, what the fuck did they do to this item? How was this item not broken? And I was just like, yeah, I thought about playing it, and I read that item, and I'm like,
Wasn't
nah, I'm
that
good.
Duskblade
Yeah, that was
originally?
Dustblade.
Didn't it just come off being broken too?
Yeah,
And they
it was,
rebroke it?
and
Like,
they re-broke it again.
oh my god, man.
So yeah,
Yeah, that was
um,
the one that made you invisible, right? When you got a kill.
yeah, and Master Yi was going crazy with it.
Yeah, yeah,
After he get a kill, he not only does his Q take him off the map, he goes invisible pretty much temporarily. Once he gets that kill, he goes invisible again, and then can Q again invisible. So you couldn't even like CC him if you wanted to, because he was just invisible if he gets a kill.
yeah.
But now they turned it into like a death dance. You're not targetable for a couple seconds or some crazy shit, and I'm just like, yeah, bro, no way. And they just like nerfed it to where towers can target you now. So I was just like, so people were just tower diving with this weapon,
Wait
and
a
nothing
second.
was
Oh
happening.
my god. No, that's like a basic level of just moronic design. Like, I don't want to be mean, but like, how do you let that in the game? How do you not test that?
I don't think they test their games anymore.
Man, dude. No, I mean, this is the thing. Like, dude, man, I've been, I told you guys last week, I've been watching a lot of trash content and been watching some Asmongold reacts, and he's very, he's very critical to devs. But his thing with Diablo 4 is that the devs don't play the game, and I kind of feel that way about League sometimes when you tell me some of these things, like how do you not realize that letting somebody be untargetable for multiple seconds is inabusable in a game where you need to target people, like to even hit them, like for a tower to do that too, for it not to work under tower, for it to ignore tower shots is like the dumbest thing I think I've ever fucking heard, that should not be on an item. Okay, maybe in somebody's kit, in a specific character that does a
Mhm.
specific thing and it takes a certain amount of skill to pull off, not on an item. Like that's crazy. Like you should not make that available to every character, That's fucking nuts to me.
Yeah, I
Uh
agree.
and I mean that just shows like a lack of understanding of your game though, like how abusable that is. Um so that wouldn't surprise me. I mean, you're saying a lot of new devs on the dev team, and for as smart as developers have to be in order to make a video game, at the same time there's a different type of intelligence it takes to really understand the way a game works from like a deep systemic level.
Hmm.
The way the abilities interact, the damage is dealt, the calculations for that damage, and how these things play out. Like I don't necessarily think all devs have that talent. And that's kind of a problem in a game that's hyper competitive like League of Legends. If you
I,
Yeah,
I think the problem is I don't even think it's the problem. I know we like you said, I 100% agree with you that devs are super smart. And even when we like, oh, they're fucking dumb, they don't know what they're doing. Like we're just talking out our ass. Like we know
yeah,
developers are smart.
right,
Um, and I 100% agree with you too that it's a different level of intelligence. I don't. I think they intentionally do it because they want to leave a mark, especially on these long running games. they want to leave a mark on the game, so they
Even
want to
if it's a
change it.
negative, though.
They come in having the right intentions. You see
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And they
Okay.
want to change it to where they think it's positive, but then they forget what the game was actually about. And I think that's what we're going through with League. I mean, I haven't seen it with Dota. I haven't played Dota, but League for sure is like dealing with it. And like even these older franchises like Halo, in instance, they're dealing with this like identity crisis because they don't know if they want to evolve the game or they don't know if they want to keep the game the same. Um, and some things are fundamentally there for a reason. You know, the League and Dota were like long games because it was a long game. You were playing for the long game. You were farming and then you occasionally fight. And then once in game happened, that's why there was a in game. To me now in League, there is no in game. There's just early and mid. And if you die within any one of those points in the game, like
Hmm.
sometime the game is over. The first death, you're just like, oh, well, that's GG's. Like there shouldn't be a point to where how we were playing it when we went against an Aurelia and she got Blade or Rune King, we were just like, oh, what? That's game, y'all. Pack it up, boys, because she's about to run behind us, and it was just like that was the game. And if you don't fundamentally see a problem with that, you can't just say you're silver and then throw it off at that because the pros can do it. The top 5% of the game, like 95% of the fan base of League of Legends, to
Yeah.
be honest with you, is in silver
Yeah.
and gold.
Yeah.
So you should be catering the game around them. The
Yeah.
the top, in my opinion, like the pros of the game should be able to diamond plus players should be able to deal with whatever you throw at them because they're really good at the game. Anything you throw at them, they should be able to deal with it and adjust with it.
Yeah.
That's to me what breaks what's the difference between a pro competitive scene and a casual scene.
Hmm.
Um, I said that about like not Final Fantasy, but Super Smash Brothers, right? Um, we were talking. Me and my friend were talking about like franchises that used to be fun, but then just got ruined by competitiveness. And I
Hmm.
think Super Smash Brothers is one of those franchises. Nobody plays that game for fun anymore.
Nope.
That is a serious ass fighting game, and it
I'm
fought like
taking, dude. That is a huge L in my take
it is.
history. Because I used to be the person that was mad at Nintendo for not releasing a real online and like embracing the competitive player base, and eventually they I don't know. I don't know if I'd say they were forced to, but eventually they did with like Smash Ultimate and even the Wii U one. And dude, I don't play Smash anymore. Like, you know, like none
Yeah,
of us do.
and it was the ultimate party game, and
Yeah,
it's
I know.
it's and like yeah, you can say like well all the elements of the party is still there, but it's like Smash was so much more than just like a party game. It had a robust, even Brawl had a robust fucking offline mode, single player story mode, subspace immersory, and it's like we don't even have that in fucking Smash 4 or Smash for You or whatever it's called now. Smash Ultimate. We don't even
Mhm.
have that. It has a single player, it has break the targets and all that bullshit, but it's like we don't have the adventure mode that we had before and melee or none of that shit. And it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah,
I don't know. It's just it went for character releases and all that shit like that. And
yeah.
I don't know, man. It's just it's not fun. And I feel like competitive ruined the game because they focus too much on that aspect. And I feel like competitive players, like the difference between competitive players today and like, you're all for competitiveness back in Halo 3. I feel like competitive players back in the day, um, they took a lot of what they had to take on the chin. So, or they'll just like the game modes, they'll configure them to where they were competitive. So, like the players will have their own little competitive playlist or whatever, and then everybody else had Social Slayer or Ranked Slayer, but it wasn't like super hardcore or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it was just they took what they had and they made it instead of the game developers like saying we're going to make a game specifically for you, and it's like that's not what you should be doing. Like even fighting games do that. I don't think fighting games should be catering towards the people who play in Evo. I
Hmm.
think they should be catered towards people like you, right? Like you
Yeah.
don't play fighting games like that. But if a fighting game came out and you were playing it, you shouldn't be deterred to not play it because you don't know what 236 um PP means. And you're
Yeah.
like, what the fuck does that mean? And that's nothing but the Hadouken motion. So
Yeah.
it's like, or you don't know frame data. You don't know, oh, if I block this, I'm positive I can counter that. I shouldn't have to know that to play your fucking game. And
Yeah.
I teased the FGC community about that shit, and they got mad at me on Twitter. They dunked me. They quote retweet dunked me. But I was just like, I stood my ground, like that's stupid. I mean, I'm one of y'all, but I'm just like, it's stupid to me. Like my game, the game shouldn't be that. The
Yeah.
game should be you as a pro player should be able to adjust to whatever the game throws at you because you are a pro player. You see what I'm saying? If that makes
Yeah.
sense, if I'm making sense,
No, it
um,
does.
yeah, I just feel like your pro players are like the fucking uh berserkers, or like they know the games in and out, and they should be able to adjust to whatever is thrown at them for like balancing or whatever the
Well, they
case
also
may
have the
be.
highest skill level too,
Exactly,
so they can take advantage of anything. You know.
exactly.
So yeah, I don't know. I agree with you. But you were asking about, how's Dota doing? I just real quick decided to go look because I remember seeing this on my feed a couple weeks ago. I
Mhm.
posted an article in the chat. They posted their last major patch notes entirely in emojis. And the community spent a huge amount of time trying to translate the patch notes, and they actually translated it. It was like 55 pages of changes, all in emojis. And dude, if you go to the article, they break down some of it, like show you some of the translations, and they make sense. They actually make sense.
So Dota is just having fun. Like
No,
people are
that's
just
what I'm
loving them.
saying. I don't know. I'm not in the community that deep. There's probably some rage in there, and the article even says some people were really mad about the patch notes being done like this. But it's like, dude, this is just them. They're just having fun. Because I remember there was a major update in April called the Frontiers update, and I remember reading the patch notes, and they were so taking the piss out of everything they were doing. They were like, yeah, we're just reducing stuns across the board. Stuns aren't fun. You fuck that. You don't want to be fucking stunned. So everybody gets a 25% reduction in stun value. And then there was some other shit in there. They were like, yeah, we're just gonna do this, and it's probably broken, but whatever, we'll fix it. Like it's just like fucking funny ass shit, man. So they actually seem like they're having a lot of fun with the game over 10 years on in the game's lifespan. So it can
Nice.
be done. It can be done. It can be done, Riot. So I don't know, but
Yeah.
yeah, the emoji patch notes. It looks absolutely unhinged. There's a part in here where there's there's this whole part like paragraph. I'm assuming this is one character, and it's 5 clown emojis in a row. And there's 5 different lines or 6 different lines, so it's like 30 clown emojis all in a paragraph. It's just funny as fuck, man. It just looks hilarious. But yeah, so it can be done. I think companies just need to put the effort in and embrace their community. I'm
Yeah,
not saying
I think
Riot doesn't. They definitely do, but
they
yeah,
do, but I feel like it's still a standoff between the community and the devs. I feel like it's been like that for a while now, and I feel like almost every game now, um, whether it be offline or a single player game or whatever, the community is almost at arms with their devs,
yeah,
which is very scary because we don't want that, because then you'll get games that go against what the community likes or whatever.
hmm
Um, so I don't know. Which we're going to talk about actually. I think that kind of ties into like one of our subjects that we're going to talk about today. Um, yeah, but I finished with games I've been playing. I played YS9. I put like maybe 12 hours into that game. Oops, what the fuck? I put like maybe
East 9. I don't want to get. I don't want you to get flamed to
oh
oblivion.
East. It's East 9.
East, yes,
East. Okay, East 9.
or Ease or East. It's one of the two of those.
Okay. I played that game
hmm
for about 9 hours or for about 10 hours. I think I put into the game. It's a decent game. It's nothing special. It
Yeah,
reminds me of a very old school PlayStation 2 RPG, like the format of it and everything like that, the graphics. Um, it doesn't try to do anything crazy. which I kind of respect. It's just it is what it is. Like this is your little standard action combat JRPG game, and here's the story, and there you go, Bucko, and that was
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Silent protagonist, I like it. It's been a while since I played with silent protagonist. Um, so yeah, I don't know. It was all right. I uninstalled it because I was just like, it's all right. But then once I figured out the game loop, I was like, I don't really like. I think it's the way that particular game is staged. I don't really like the way that one's staged. Um, which I kind of respect because they didn't exceed their scope. I thought there was going to be a world, but the world is actually a city, and you're
Hmm.
just in that city, and you
Yeah.
unlock other parts of the city. Which I think is like I think more games should just do that. Like stay within your scope, bro, and just instead of doing the whole fucking world, we're just gonna do this
Yeah.
one city, and you got caverns and everything under that city, and the city's fucking huge. Um, yeah, so other game I've been playing. I know you're gonna tease me about it. I played Tower of Fantasy,
Hmm.
and I only put like 5 hours to the game. I haven't
Okay.
actually touched it since.
Are you done? Like you're not gonna play it anymore?
Bro, it's just too much like story shit. I just want to fucking play the game.
Yeah. So
Like,
I told you this was a Genshin clone, and it sounds like it is in that way as well.
yeah, like if I try to skip the cutscene, they'll make you feel bad. Like if you skip the cutscene, you will cut the immersion of the game. I'm like, bro,
Mhm.
why do you have dope combat and you're not letting me fucking play the dope combat? Like, just let me fucking play the game. Um, And yeah, like I didn't even get a chance to do any pools or anything. The pools are weird too. Um, so you created a character and you can like create their
Oh
bust
yeah.
size and their hips and everything like that. Like, so it's
Okay.
not like Genshin in that aspect where you can have a male or female character, but you can actually customize them.
Hmm.
You can unlock outfits for them and everything like that. Or they have preset characters that you can unlock as well, which come with their own little special abilities, I think, or stats. I think they come with.
Yeah.
But I didn't really see the point in unlocking a character because I like the way my character looks. So the other thing is you do a gotchas for is the weapons. So I think that's the main crux of what you're gonna be doing gotchas for is for weapons in the game in ways to
Well,
upgrade those weapons.
okay. So yeah, this sounds pretty much like Genshin. Bloated story content, weapon banner, character banners. So in Genshin, the weapon banner is a trap. You shouldn't do it because you're not guaranteed to get the weapon you want. Generally speaking, it's I don't know how Tower of Fantasy is, but you get there's
Does the weapon dictate the move set? Because in this game, the weapon dictates the move set, not the character.
no, it's the character that uses a certain type of weapon and that dictates their move set.
Okay, yeah. In this game, the weapon dictates the
I
move set.
see. So it's like the opposite then. So the characters are
Yeah,
less important. Okay.
yeah.
That makes sense then. Okay. So I guess that makes sense, but yeah. I mean, I'm glad you didn't get to the point of the polls cuz that's where the game probably falls apart. These games tend to fall apart cuz it's just dude, it's I mean, these systems are predatory. There's no other way to say it. It doesn't matter what
Mm,
fucking game it is. I don't give a shit what pity system they fucking have. Like they're all predatory. Genshin's predatory, Honkai's predatory. They're all predatory. They're intended to make you spend money. Like they're designed that way, and they fucking work. Clearly, like Hoyo verse is insane how much revenue they fucking are generating nowadays between their games. So I just thought it was funny that you were playing one of these and you decided to play Tower of Fantasy, which is a Genshin Impact ripoff. um, and from everything I understand, it is pretty much worse in most ways. But Genshin has the same problem that you were describing, where it's uh, too much story, not enough combat and gameplay that you get to do. Because Genshin's at this point where it's just got so much content in it that it's like, dude, you can't do it all. Like you can't realistically keep up with all of it. If you haven't been playing since launch, you're just
mm.
not gonna keep up with it. And yeah, just give up. Just give up on that idea. And that's kind of where I'm at with that game. Like I just can't bring myself to do it because the story the quests, even just a normal side quest with no spoken dialogue, takes fucking forever, dude, because that just goes on and on and on. And I'm surprised Tower of Fantasy like ripped that style uh from Genshin Impact on top of the look and everything. Because I think that's Genshin's like worst element at this point is that bloating. So
Yeah, I'm not into like every like I understand it's the beginning of the game, but it's just like, is there ever going to be a point into the game where I can just explore? Like, I can do that in the game as well, but I don't feel like I unlocked everything to where I know what I need to explore for. If that makes any sense. So I'm
yeah.
still just going through the story beats, and it's like every fucking cutscene is like 10 minutes long, and I'm like, bro, I don't fucking care. I just really don't fucking care at this point. So I just dropped the game. Um, and I started playing Scarlet Nexus. I'm playing the other side of Scarlet Nexus, the Kisani's role, which is the
Okay.
girl,
Mhm.
which I thought would be the same as Yuito's, but it actually opened up a whole different perspective of stuff that I didn't even see on Yuito's side. Um, so kudos to them. And they had like a whole bunch of DLC drops and extra episodes and all this other shit like that. So I've actually been like balls deep into that. I put like maybe 20 hours into it. Um, and I'm probably still even going to play it once Bomber Cyberpunk comes out because I really like that game. I don't know. I really for some reason this game really clicks with me. It's like the
Mhm.
anime, but it's like they tried. It's like an anime game that people actually tried in, and
Yeah.
I actually love that. I tweeted about the game the other day, and the game director, the actual literal game director, he retweeted my shit. I was like, he followed
Mm.
me, so
Wow.
uh, he's probably gonna hate following me. But
Mhm.
yeah, that was pretty cool. So yeah, but that's pretty much all I've been playing. Tonight I'm waiting for 11 o'clock to hit on Steam so I can fucking download Bomber Cyberpunk and play it. So that's it.
You're doing it on PC?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh,
Fair enough.
Diana is still playing Zelda, so
Mm. Oh
I
yeah.
don't want to take that away from her, even though
Big
she's
game.
saying take it away from her. She's like, just take it away from me. I'm like, no, you gotta finish it. You already started it. You gotta finish it.
Don't
She's like,
instill that in her, man. Let her put it down. Oh, it's such a curse to be a completionist. I hate it.
no,
I,
I was just like, can you just complete the game? And she's like, I only beat like 2 or 3 bosses. And she's been playing this game for like 3 weeks and going hard on it too.
yeah.
And I'm like, what you mean? And she's like, the game is fucking big. It's huge. And she likes to explore everything. So that way when she goes to do quests, she can instantly like fast travel there. Um and yeah, she's just like, it's not sustainable. I'm just
Mhm.
like, yeah, maybe I think she's getting to the point now where she's just like, yeah, you can just take the Switch away from me. I'll come back and finish it another couple months or whatever. So
Yeah. Fair enough. All right. Is that all you've been playing?
yeah, that's it.
All right. Let's move on to the news. All right. Our first story. Well, really, our only main news story this week is this is a fun one. NBA 2K24 is putting a battle pass, a paid battle pass, into the franchise mode. It looks like. Oh no!
Yeah.
Yikes! On top of all the other monetization that we've probably talked about in years past, I'm sure the gotcha system is still going to exist or whatever the fuck they call it in this game.
Yeah, I don't I mean a lot of the community is upset about it, to be honest with you, which I'm surprised about. But a lot of them still saying they're gonna buy the game. They're just gonna buy it. So I mean, I think the game at this point should be free to play. Like, why are we even
Why
playing
though? They
70?
get the double dip. Everybody keeps buying it.
Yeah, you're right.
They're not going to
I,
change anything until you guys stop buying this shit.
I feel like this would be justifiable if it was free to play, but it's not.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know why. It just seems weird for a sports game to have a battle pass to me. Um, I don't know. It's just really scummy in my opinion.
Well, dude,
I
it's a
can't believe they're doing
$70 game. I mean, this is
$80.
no what?
I don't think the base. I don't even think there's a base version of the game.
Hold on. Purchase NBA 2K24. Well, you're fucking with me. If there's got to be a $70 version. Steam.
If it is, I think there's only.
No, there is on
Oh, there
Steam.
is.
At least in
Okay.
Steam, it says pre-purchase the NBA 2K24 Kobe Bryant edition, and then
Okay.
the $100 version is the NBA 2K24 Black Mamba edition, and then there's a $150 version of the game. What the fuck, dude? 25th anniversary edition. I mean, not only do you need to use Kobe to sell your fucking game,
Which I'm surprised.
posthumously, like,
I
come
was
on,
gonna say
man.
I'm surprised people aren't upset about this. They're like, oh, Black Mamba's on the cover. I got to get it. And I'm like, no one's upset about them using this man's death like this. Like to me, that's crazy. But I don't know. I think they already had him on the cover a couple games ago as well. I believe.
Yeah, I mean, the family has to approve this, though, right?
Yeah, 100%. So I mean, maybe they approved. I know they get the money.
Yeah, but how does that make you feel?
I mean,
I don't know their situation. I don't know their situation, right? But like, let's assume they have money.
Well, I mean, he loved his family. His family loved him. So whatever.
I know, but man, I don't know, man. It's like, I don't like the idea of using a guy who's not alive anymore. I don't know, on the cover personally, but I mean, I guess it's you the idea is you're trying to celebrate him, but like, it's hard to say that when this game is so heavily monetized and it's a premium fucking game. I don't think you're celebrating anything. I think you're trying to sell copies. Like, I don't I don't think there's any celebration happening here, like in a genuine way. Personally.
I'm surprised people weren't upset at the John Madden version of Madden when it was like celebrating John Madden and it was a terrible.
I think it's different. It's different there because the franchise has always been called Madden.
Okay.
So it's a little bit more justifiable, but it's the same concept. Not as probably not as scummy, but no, your point is well taken there, though. I don't disagree with you necessarily.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like it. I mean, a part of me wants to get just because it is the Mamba edition, and I like Kobe Bryant, but it's just like I'm not about to spend my money on it. Like all this, every time I think about buying like a sports game, I look at the price and I'm just like, I can just wait. Like 2K23 is free now, and I'm like, yeah, I can just wait till next year, bro, and I can just play it for free. Like I can just
Well,
play
and
it
in
for
the
free.
game, if you do buy it, the game is going to inundate you with ads for its fucking in-game monetization.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't really care. Like I don't know. I like to do the my player thing. Like that's the main reason I love 2K.
Mm-hmm.
I don't play online, but I feel like at least with this game, they barely even talked about the my player. Like that's
Yeah.
usually like their main selling point. And I haven't seen any like my player trailer at all.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Are you afraid it's not in the game?
I'm afraid it's in the game, but I'm afraid like it got put on the back burner because everybody just goes to my park, which is where you take your created character and play other created characters, um, other people's builds and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Um,
Okay, hold on. I gotta point something out here. I'm on Steam. I'm looking at the they have a product page for NBA 2K,
mhm.
and they only have NBA 2K23 and 2K22, but they're both $60.
Wait, really?
Yeah, like they've not reduced the base price.
That has to be for Steam only. It's like $20 or something like
That's
that.
crazy. Well, no, on Steam, but then on NBA 2K22 in the description, there's a note: all multiplayer servers for NBA 2K22 will be shut down as of 12/31/2023. After that time, all
What?
game functions requiring online servers will no longer function. This is on the Steam page
Are you
for this game.
serious?
Actually, is it on the Steam page? Oh, it is. It is on the Steam page. Dude, so literally, what, 2.5 years, not even after the game comes out, they're shutting the online servers down? Isn't this a game that requires online to even play it?
Some aspects of it, yeah.
Or some aspects of it. I'm sure you could do like career mode and stuff offline.
Yeah. Yeah.
potentially. But yeah.
That is kind of weird. I remember there was one year where you needed like a DRM check to play
Mhm.
offline.
Well, this is something that Jump Force did. I remember last year, wasn't it? Where they shut
Mm.
their multiplayer servers off, and the game hadn't even been out 2 years or something like that. It was a really short time span, and I remember nobody talked about it. It just was like it was just brushed aside like it was normal, like, oh yeah, games shut their servers down for multiplayer. I'm like, 2 years, 2 years for a game as successful as Jump Force or NBA 2K? Are you fucking kidding me? 2 years is all you get out of the online servers? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, how is that? How is that okay? That's fucking insane, in my opinion. For a game that sells itself on multiplayer, especially NBA 2K, like, fuck that, man. Like, this shit is all about that online multiplayer. Like, that's fucking crazy, man. To me, I think that's a fucking rip, like absolute fucking rip off. That you're on like a timer like that. Like, I get it. These games are designed so that you buy them every year. That's the whole point, right? You're supposed to buy the new version of the game. So why would you be playing NBA 2K22? But dude, fine. I don't give a shit. It's like you buy a game and you can't expect it to last more than 3 years if you like, especially if you're somebody who plays online a lot. I think that's fucking nuts. And you know what else that means? That your ultimate team or whatever the equivalent is in NBA 2K just gets deleted. You're just done. You can't even play that mode anymore. Probably like that shit's all online.
That's actually insane. I didn't know they were doing that. That's crazy.
That's fucking bad, man. Because yeah, I'm pretty sure in Madden at least, the Ultimate Team mode is primarily an online game mode. There are single player things you can do, but if they're shutting off the multiplayer servers, presumably that means the game won't be online accessible anymore. So you wouldn't be able to buy packs or anything like that. Or maybe you can. Maybe they're just shutting the multiplayer off and you can still buy packs. Maybe they're doing that. That's even worse. Oh man. Oh, that's fucking rough, dude. I don't
Wow,
know.
you're
Sports
right.
gamers, we gotta wake up, guys. Like, what the
It, it,
fuck, dude?
it is pretty bad. That's wow. All player servers for NBA 2K will be shut. Wow, that's this year.
Yeah,
That's
the end
insane.
of this year. That's less than 2.5 years after the game came out.
And they're still selling stuff. They're still selling VC.
Yeah.
Oh
Oh
my
yeah, I
god.
see that. Yeah, that's on the product page. Yeah, that's fucking nuts, dude. And you can still buy an anniversary edition for $100. Oh man.
I don't know. I don't. This is what sports gamers want. So I'm not a sports gamer anymore. So I haven't played 2K since 2K like 15 or some shit like
Oh man,
that. So
Montrell, we have to speak. They're not speaking for themselves. We have to speak. We
this
got
is
to
what they
stand up.
want, man. They would
I
tell us
don't
that we don't.
care. I
This
don't care.
they would literally tell us. They would literally defend this shit.
I know they do. We've gotten yelled at for criticizing this shit before. I mean, I don't. I like. Look, man, I get it. You guys like these fucking games. I understand, and I'm not saying don't buy them, but goddamn, like fight back in some way. Like
The only way they
reclaim your
can fight back is
dignity.
not buy them. That's the only way they can fight back.
Reclaim. No, you can go online, criticize the game, like give feedback to the company, not buy certain things within the game. Like
Oh
you
yeah,
don't have
that's
to
true.
support the
Yeah,
microtransactions in the game. You can still buy the game and play it without buying any microtransactions, right?
yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
So there's other ways to fight back against this stuff. Like if the microtransactions didn't sell in the game, they would stop doing them or they would change them to make them more appealing or make it more equitable to the players. Like that's 100% true. They're not like, so I don't know. Like it is what it is.
I have given up hope. To be honest with you,
Oh man, we can't give off hope, man. We gotta fight the fight, bro. We gotta
I,
fight the fight, man.
sports gamers and anime gamers are one group of gamers you would never, in my opinion, never change. When I saw
Yeah.
Boruto Generations or Naruto Ninja Storm 4 come out or whatever the fuck, the latest Ninja Storm shit
Yes.
come
Yes.
out,
Yeah.
and people were hyped about it and
Oh
like, oh
my
my god,
god.
you can do
I
combos now.
know.
And I'm
I
like, bro,
know.
it's one fucking button. What do you mean you can do combos? It's one fucking button.
just because he punches with his left hand and then his right, that doesn't make it a combo.
Well,
You know?
apparently you can like cancel into other stuff now. I don't fucking know. I don't care anymore. Like I saw that and I saw people getting hyped for it, and then I saw like, and then there's just like this, especially on Twitter. Like this is today I couldn't get on Twitter. Like I was
Yeah.
first of all I didn't get a good amount of sleep last night, so I didn't get on Twitter last night.
Yeah.
All I did was Black Cat Appreciation Day. I posted Silas.
That picture was awesome, by the way.
So I did that and that was it. But the one time I did go in there, because I was looking for topics, like someone was like, "Man, you know," they're talking about Bleach. And it was like Ichigo's moveset and Jump Force is just it's so underrated, bro. What moveset? He has 3 moves on each button, and that's his moveset in a basic attack, bro. That's it. That's Jump Force. Like, what are we talking about? And it made me so upset. Just I had logged back off Twitter because I was literally about to go
saw
off.
the tweet you're talking about. Oh my god, dude!
I'm just like, speaking of Bleach, like, yeah, we can't escape it because anime gamers they got excited about the 1,000-year gotcha game that comes out. People are excited by this game. They're like, oh my god, I can't believe it. It's coming out. Oh, and I'm like, oh shit, we're trying to get like a Bleach game, right? So I check it, and it's a fucking mobile game that people are just going ape shit about, and I'm like, is this where we're at? Is this where anime gamers are at?
Yes, the Monster Hunter game's coming out soon on mobile. You ready for that one?
I just want
Montrell. There's three communities of gamers that I think are in a really dark place, and I'm part of one of them. And you're not part of any of these probably, but you used to be. Sports gamers,
yeah,
anime
definitely.
gamers,
Yep.
and gotcha gamers. And I'm part of the gotcha game one, and I know it, and I know I'm part of the problem, and I'm working on it. And
at least you admit it. Some people don't admit the problem.
No, they don't, dude. They don't. You know, I'm telling you, talking about watching trash content, right? So I've been following some, you know, a lot of the gotcha community stuff because I'm playing Honkai, and there's a lot of YouTubers out there and streamers for that game, and and Genshin and all these other gotcha games, and like if you really dug into this, Montreal, you would be blown away by how many gotcha games there are out there and how big the communities for these games are. And how many YouTubers there are for this shit. And when you go into the comments of these videos, like there's one guy in particular called Tectone, and he's playing Honkai right now. That's like his main game, but he's always been a gotcha streamer primarily.
Yeah.
And he's really knowledgeable about gotcha games. And he has the same opinion I do, that these games are fucking horrible. Like he's hopelessly addicted to them, but he also acknowledges that they're fucking horrible. You shouldn't spend money on them. It's fucking stupid. They're trying to trick you. Like it's manipulative bullshit, you know, right? But dude, when I go into the I was in the comments of one of the videos of one of his videos yesterday, I think. And dude, the things people were saying, like, because he was talking about one of the new characters coming for Honkai, or a couple of new characters coming for Honkai, and people were like, dude, the things that people are saying in the comments, I'm like, oh my god, are we down this bad? Holy fuck!
What were they saying?
Like, it's shit like bro, like, man, oh man, I gotta have this character, bro. Like, I have to fucking have her, man. Like, it's like I don't think I can afford her, but I have to have her, and it's like, oh, me too, bro. Like, oh my god, dude. I'm like, dude, are we like, what happened to gamers, man? What happened to us? Like, this transformation is horrifying. Like, dude,
listen, Justin, I think, and this is probably going to go into like another field, a topic that maybe one day we should talk about because we're older now. But it doesn't necessarily deal with games, but it does deal with men. And I think me and you are insanely fucking lucky. A lot of kids now are lonely. A lot of gamers are lonely. A lot of men in general are lonely. Like that's not just me saying that. That's statistically the thing that's going on. We're on a crash course to, like, if you want to see where the Americas are going to look like, look no further than Japan, because that's where we're going. We're heading there. People aren't having kids and none of that shit, right? So it's like when you have that in conjunction with the gotcha element, it's literally the perfect storm.
It is.
It's literally the perfect. And I feel like we got lucky. Like we have wives and we have friends. We grew up in the generation that was kind of migrating into this generation, but we still had to go outside and touch grass. and I just feel bad for like the Gen Zers and like guys who are like 19 to 25 right now. I
Yeah.
feel really bad for them because it's like, what do
Yeah.
you do? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then you see comments like that, like, I- dude, I didn't know. Like, I guess this is kind of tying into the gotcha thing too. But um, like there's like communities dedicated, and the only reason I know this is because like there are some coomers that I follow, like people who like I talk to, and they follow me because like the podcast or whatever, but they're coomers, so they
Yeah.
like retweet like crazy shit, like hentai shit or whatever.
Yeah.
Sometimes I gotta turn off the
You gotta mute
retweets or
him.
whatever. Yeah, but like the VTubers, they're like dedicated Rule 34 subreddits for VTubers, and they know these are VTubers
Mm-hmm.
and they don't care about the person behind the VTube.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the main focus. The
Mm-hmm.
focus is the actual avatar itself.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is a
Yeah,
thing?
man. This isn't no, it's dude, it's an epidemic, bro. Like I'm just I don't know. Being in the gotcha community has exposed me to a type of person that I knew was out there. Because I mean, I was this person at one point in my life where you're just like a lonely dude. You feel like shit. You hate yourself. Like you don't think you
Yeah.
can do anything right. Women don't talk to you, and when they do, it's to make fun of you. And like you're right. I feel super lucky that I'm not in that space anymore. But like I like relate to these people though, because I still like that's still in me
Because
somewhere,
you can see it. You can see how that easily could have been you.
Absolutely, dude. I man,
And it's so heartbreaking.
I
It's
don't want to
so
envision that
heartbreaking.
alternate timeline because
Yeah.
I totally could be that person who's like, yeah, totally like lusting over a fucking V2 avatar or something like, oh, being down that bad, bro, or like subscribing to an OnlyFans or something, Um, that probably is more normal actually than what we're talking about. But yeah, dude, the VTuber thing is really interesting. I don't have an issue with it, but like
Yeah, I
there's a
don't have an
lot of
issue with the VTuber. It's just
there's a
the
lot of unspoken shit though that you're talking about that you
yeah.
just brought up about this stuff that is it's weird and it's like no one talks about it, and I feel like we all are just shoving this shit in a closet and like dude, like just the amount of like lusting for these characters that come out in some of these games, man, is fucking it's fucking wild, man. And the amount just like the hinging your happiness on whether you get a certain character or not in these gotcha games is fucking real, man. Like go watch some of these YouTubers do polls, bro. They are fucking losing their minds, like just trying to pull a character. I'm like, holy shit, dude, it's not that it's really not that big of a deal, if you don't get them. It's okay. It will be okay. And it's like, I don't know, man. It's just watching all this stuff is it's rough. Like I even think about myself too, and I'm like sitting here playing Hawkeye, and I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? Like I'm not playing other games. I need to go do other things, like play other games, do other things. Like, but I'm still playing it. I'm still playing it. Like it's not that I
Well, I
don't
mean,
enjoy the game, that
you
it's not a good
actually like,
game, but
I'm about to say like it actually has that's the element that pulls you in. It has really good gameplay.
mm-hmm,
Honkai, from what I saw, has really good gameplay. Even like for a turn by turn game, it's a really good gameplay. It
mm-hmm.
reminds me of Persona level gameplay as far as like the presentation or whatever, in
Yeah.
my opinion. Not the
Yeah, I'd
mechanics.
put it in that same realm. It's not like people over severely overestimate the complexity of Persona's combat. Like it is not
Yeah,
complex at all.
when I say
Um,
like the combat, I'm talking about like the presentation, like
yeah,
the
yeah,
actual
but no,
combat
I'm
itself.
saying from both angles, right? The presentation, the animations, and then
Mhm.
the complexity of the combat, like they're kind of on the same level. Like Honkai's not that complicated of a game, but there's some depth to it. But every character literally has two abilities. Like you know, it's not that complicated to play.
Yeah,
You press this button or you press this button. Those are your choices, like for the most part. So it's a simple game, generally speaking, but it's still fun to play. At the same time, but it's like it's not like I'm putting a lot of hours into Honkai, but I just happen to notice like I'm just I don't know why I keep getting in these cycles of like where I'm like playing one game, because I'm doing this with Tactics Ogre right now, where I've been playing this game for like a fucking month now, and I'm just like, God, I need to move on, play something else. Like it's like I want to play. There's so many games that I want to play, and I need to just go do it, you know.
Well, it's your
And
comfort game. Like that's
yeah, I know.
that's what happens. Like that's
No, it
what
is.
happened with like League. League was my comfort game for a long time and everything like that. And I felt lost because I like literally dropped it like 3 or 4 months ago. Um, but like now I'm starting to discover other games, and I think in my opinion, this is where like those subscriptions like Game Pass and PlayStation Extra really come into light because I can
Yeah.
try so many different games. I can play it for a couple hours and then just drop them. Um,
Mhm.
and I don't feel bad because I didn't buy it. You know, I don't feel obligated to finish them or whatever. One could argue it's a good or bad thing, but like I can try a lot of games and then I can find one that I really like and then just go crazy on it. And I think that's where the subscription model comes to play. And then I can actually buy the game, support the game, even though like they're probably getting support from the subscription as well, but I actually will buy it as well, to show
Yeah.
further support. But I think that's what it is. I think like Tactics Ogre, I don't really fault you for that. That's like a single player, long grind type game. That is your
Yeah.
type of
Well,
game.
I want to platinum it.
Yeah,
But I'm kind of dragging it out, and I'm like, I'm not playing it every day. But I'm not playing anything else on those days where I'm not playing it. Like
yeah,
I'm like watching YouTube or like messing with my magic cards, like setting up decks or something, or doing something around the house, or spending time with my wife. It's like I'm not wasting. I don't feel like I'm wasting time playing Tactics Ogre. It's just the sheer amount of time I need to put into it to get to the point that I want to get to. At a certain point, I've hit the wall now where I'm like, I have to stop. I got to put this down for a while and come back to it. When I'm more freed up, because Pikmin 4 has passed me by. I have yet to play Zelda. We've got Armored Core 6 next week. We've got Starfield in September coming. I like Baldur's Gate 3. I'm telling myself that I'm waiting for the PS4 version, but I'm really not. I should be playing this game right fucking now.
yeah.
Like I know the game is literally made for me. But I'm not. I haven't bought it. And part of it's because I don't want to buy it twice. It's not cross play. So if we're
I
gonna
think it
play it
is cross
together,
progression, but
yeah. Yeah, but if we're gonna play it together, like I need to be on the same platform as you, and that's gonna be PS5. So
well,
so I do.
I could play it on PC. I don't mind playing this type of game on PC.
Yeah, but I think didn't DJ want to like maybe play with us too?
I have to ask.
Okay. Because yeah, I'm assuming he's on PS5 probably. Um, so I don't know. It's like getting back to the main topic of discussion about those three different communities is I think your point about male loneliness is really well taken in the gotcha space specifically, because dude, when you really look into gotcha games, it is so fucking disgusting like what they are for the most part. Like Honkai and Genshin are pretty tame compared to some of these games, like that one you sent me with the gun game that you sent me in the chat with that woman. Like I don't like, bro, I
What
just
game? I forgot.
the one with the woman that was in like a bikini, gigantic fucking boobs, and she's like sipping a fucking mai tai and turns around and starts shooting a gun at a
Oh yeah, that
yeah,
game.
like shit like that, right? Like boobs so massive that the bikini is struggling to keep them contained, that kind of thing. And that is just like totally exemplifies what you're talking about. They're trying to cater to lonely men, and it works. It's working. It's working because there's so many guys out there that just like they're either depressed, socially awkward, don't have any friends, it's just all these things like combined to make it so that they realistically have like almost no shot at meeting a woman or something,
Yeah.
and so they grab onto this easy shit that's right in front of them, whether it's gotcha games, OnlyFans, VTubers, whatever that is.
Yeah, you
And
get that instant. Why try to work on a human relationship where you can get that instant dopamine rush right
yeah,
there? You know?
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, and it's so. it's become so prevalent that it's like I actually think it's a real problem that our society needs to like address, dude.
Well,
But
I mean, I don't like I said I don't like to get political, but like that's why they did a survey or whatever, a study, and they're seeing that a lot of kids are when they graduate or when they turn like 12 or 13, they're like when we were turning 12 or 13, a lot of us were turning like liberal, whatever, and they see a lot of them going to like conservative, but like not the like conservative that we used to think of what conservative is. It's like that weird dark path alt right conservative.
QAnon, yeah,
Yeah, QAnon because they want a community to be a part of and stuff like that.
yeah,
Um, and when they do try to go to like the left side of things or even centrist side of stuff, people kind of reject them and then kind of say like, well, it's your fault, you're a man, figure it out
because they're
type
men, yeah,
shit. Yeah,
right.
like, well, the society is geared towards you anyway, so whatever, you can figure it out type shit. And I honestly think I just watched like a couple of YouTube videos on it actually. And I think is like you said, I think it's a real issue that we are ignoring, and it's becoming more radicalized. You see it in like these school shootings. I mean, it's infecting almost every part of our lives, to where I don't know where it's going to be in the next 10 years. To be honest with you, but these gotcha games though, man, like you said, they know what they're doing. Like I see it, and it's
Oh yeah,
like I'm not gonna sit here and be like I'm totally immune to it. Blah, blah, blah. Like I like looking at the boobs and the ass and all that shit. Like I'm a dude.
absolutely.
I like looking
Yeah,
at
no,
that
for
shit.
sure, for sure.
Like, but it's just like it's to a point where it's just like, all right, I know sex sells, but goddamn, stop calling me a Neanderthal. Like when I see stuff like that, I feel like
Yeah,
insulted because I feel like you're calling me a Neanderthal. This is all you want. This is all you want. You want ass and boobs. You don't want nothing else. You
yeah,
want this character because that's what it is. And
yep.
I feel like the player base. I feel like so many dudes that do play this game, and it's not. And let's be honest, a lot of it too. I'll say it is 90% of dudes, but like 10% of it is women too, like lonely women, and they get into this shit too. And like you're starting to see it actually happen more and more with women as well. So it's not just dudes as well, but
Yeah.
um yeah, it's a very egregious thing. I don't know what people should do about it. Um I don't know. Genshin definitely wasn't the start of it. I started to
No,
see it in Fire Emblem. Like
it was even earlier than
that's when
that. That was
yeah, that's when
earlier
I
than
noticed
that,
it
dude.
though.
Fate, Stay Night, Fate Grand Order, dude.
Oh
That,
yeah, when you told me about that game, I was just like, bro,
bro,
what is
like,
going on? You're like, well,
dude,
let me
like,
explain to you real quick.
uh, yeah, no, I would probably attribute it more to anime than anything. Probably first, that would be the first place I would go, because anime has always had a contingent of that fan service element to it,
It's just never
and
been this bad though, Justin. Like,
no, I know, but I think that's where a lot of this like kind of came from, and that's where I think a lot of American people started watching anime, and there's a subsection that's a big reason that they watch it.
mhm.
Is that like booba, fucking like really over the top fan servicey type anime style, and that has now bled into games as well, and it's yeah, I don't know, it's rough, man. I mean, it's fine. I'm the same as you, right? I'm not gonna sit here and say that I'm immune to it. There's some characters in Genshin and Honkai that I'm like, oh Jesus Christ, dude. Like in Genshin, like just go look up Yelan, bro. Like fucking Christ. But but at the same time, I'm like, I'm not sitting here all day thinking about that. Like when I'm playing the game and I'm using her, and it's like, okay, sure, maybe it's crossing my brain, but I'm not like obsessed with her in that way. It's not like she's not my favorite fucking character, or anything like that. So it's just I feel like, but that's because I have a full life. I have
Mhm.
people around me that I interact with on a daily basis, whether that's my wife or my friends or my family and things like that. Like, so it kind of keeps me grounded in that way. I could totally see if like you have none of that, and you don't interact with people on a daily basis to the point where you just stay inside all day. Like, I find it's easy to fall into the trap where it's like you kind of get enamored with this shit that isn't real, and it's fucked up, dude. It's fucked up, and I think it's fucked up to the point that these games are trying to take advantage of it from a financial standpoint now too, not just interest, where they're trying to make these hot characters that you'll roll for in a gotcha game, and it's like, man, it's dark shit, dude. It's really dark shit in my opinion. I think gotcha's the worst. Absolutely the worst. I mean, I've been really like mad at the sports games and what they're doing, and the monetization they're doing is really gross too. For
Hmm.
sure. But I don't think it's preying on something that is as degenerate as, you know, that like fan service type mentality in anime,
Oh yeah,
So
no, I don't think it's damaging as like Genshin. I mean, because I feel like this shit's gonna be studied in like the next 10 or 15 years. Like the impacts that Fire Emblem, Fate, Genshin had on like the human brain. I think it's just I think it's just gonna be studied. It needs to be studied. Um, I mean, one can argue like too, like microtransactions in sports games can be studied as well. Um, but I don't. I agree with you. I don't think it's to the fact it's to the point of Genshin and these other gotcha games and stuff like that.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
pulling
it's more
huge
taking
profits.
advantage of that gambling addict, right?
Yeah.
Which is bad
Yep.
too, but I don't think it's as prevalent, I guess. It's hard to say that. I think it's not as morally wrong, I guess is what I'll say. Most people would probably feel that way, but um, but in the same way, I don't know. Like the gambling stuff is bad too. It's pretty bad. Like I'd say I'd argue that like Magic the Gathering's doing that shit right now, and it's really gross in that game. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, we should probably move on at this point, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's it's an interesting conversation. We could certainly probably do a whole podcast talking about just gotcha games and the psychology of it and the way they try to manipulate people into spending money and stuff like that. It's all there in these games. And I'll be honest, I think gaming is worse for having them, despite the fact that for some fucking reason I'm broken and I like them. I don't think they're good for games the way they are, and there's just so many of them. It's crazy how many gotcha games are out there.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to our next story. We got a couple announcements that happened this week, and one of them more for me than you, I'd say. But Titan Quest 2 has been revealed by THQ Nordic. So they got their hands on the Titan Quest IP a while ago, long time ago, and they actually like kind of re-released it several years ago now. I want to say in 2016 or so. And it was really well received. They actually, to the point that it was so well received and got so much traction that they made new content for that game. They've released like 2 or 3 expansions
Oh wow.
on top of what the original run of the game had, which is really interesting. And they are now investing in this IP. It looks like, and they're making a new game, Titan Quest 2. And there's nothing. It was a cinematic trailer. There's no gameplay or anything like that. But this is an ARPG, in the vein of like Diablo or Path of Exile. Originally made by Iron Lore, the first game, and a lot of those guys went on to join Crate Entertainment, who are the people that made Grim Dawn. Um, I played both. Grim Dawn, and obviously, in my opinion, is the better game, but it also has the advantage of being 9 years older than Titan Quest, and those guys learned a lot making Titan Quest and brought that over to Grim Dawn. But Titan Quest is still a very good game, though. I think it's a very enjoyable ARPG. It's just a little dated in the way it controls and plays, certainly. But I think this game has a place in the ARPG space right now. I think it could fit in somewhere, certainly, and have some success. So I'm pretty excited about this one personally. I will say I am starting to get a little frustrated because I'm watching a lot of content of people talking about Diablo 4 and Path of Exile and shit like that, and then I read the articles about this game, and literally nobody mentions Grim Dawn, like nobody. Nobody talks about that game, and it drives me fucking crazy because it's a great fucking game.
Hmm.
It is in the same realm as like Path of Exile in terms of complexity, and it just drives me nuts that like no one even knows it exists. It's weird. So, but yeah, I mean, Titan Quest 2. Do you have any interest in this? So this is a game that takes place in Greece. Like it's an ARPG in Greece, which is actually a pretty cool setting for this type of game.
Yeah, I'm watching like old Titan Quest footage, and I just because the name sounds super familiar. I remember my cousin playing this game. I didn't play it, but my cousin
Hmm.
played it a lot.
Yeah,
And I do like that time era, Greece. It's to me,
yeah.
it's different from other ARPGs. They're usually like in the Dark Ages or like the Renaissance era. Actually, I like a Renaissance era, uh, fucking the ARPG game or something like that. I think that would be really cool. But they usually like take place in like Dark Ages or something like that. I think this is really cool thing. So I'm actually interested in seeing what's going to happen. If they're going to try to learn from Diablo 4 or what they're going to do with it. So because I mean the community's out there, it's definitely
Oh yeah.
ripe for the taking.
Well, yeah, my thing that's interesting about this is, do they continue making the game in the same style that it originally was, the original was, or do they go in a different direction?
Mm,
Because like I said, Grim Dawn was like a spiritual successor to Titan Quest, and they expanded on that game's systems tremendously, in really awesome ways. And I feel like it's going to be difficult for THQ Nordic to really replicate that. I feel like in the same way. So, do they go in their own direction? Do they completely change the way the game works, or do they try to expand upon it, expand upon those systems in their own way? I don't know. Because I do think the announcement did mention masteries again in the game, which is basically like the classes you can play as. And the system in this game in Grim Dawn is you can play two masteries on one character, so you combine them together basically, and you can put your skill points in either skill tree for either mastery, and kind of build the character out you want how you want. So it creates a lot of different combinations within the game, and gets pretty complex actually, where you can play the same two masteries on a character, and you can play them like four different ways.
mm,
So it's interesting concept. So it sounds like they're bringing that aspect to it back. So I'll be interested to see how this game works from a kind of a systemic, like mechanical level too, and how it compares to more like Grim Dawn or something like that. Or do they kind of take some things from Grim Dawn too, and morph some of that stuff in their own way as well. I'd be interested to see that too. So it'll be
yeah,
interesting because Grim Dawn's a really successful game actually. Like under the radar, has sold, I'm pretty sure, multiple millions of copies. Like 2 million, I think it's somewhere potentially in that ballpark, of copies sold, and that is a really popular game for an indie studio to be making. So there's an audience there that's probably very interested in this, and then of course there's people that play the original Titan Quest that are of course interested in this, and then there's people who play PoE and Diablo 4 that are either dissatisfied or by the time this comes out, like bored with those games and want to try something new.
yeah,
And I think this game certainly has appeal to all those audiences. So I think this is a really good idea from THQ Nordic. I don't think anybody would really was expecting this. I certainly wasn't. But I think this is a good IP to invest in personally. I think this is actually one of the few things they own that I think they could do something really good with. So we'll see.
yeah. THQ Nordic is just one of those companies where it's hit or miss. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. All right, moving on. This is another announcement. So this is from Activision Blizzard. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, which is coming this year, has officially been revealed. They did a gameplay reveal, and they showed something interesting here. Seemingly somewhat of a open world-ish design where you can make some different choices within the game potentially.
Yeah, I did see that. It kind of goes back to like one of the older Call of Duties that tried to do that.
Hmm.
So I'm glad they're kind of trying it here. Um, I mainly play Call of Duty Modern Warfare for the single player. I wish they had like some kind of bundle where you can just buy single player stuff. Um, so I am interested in the single player because that's the story is actually pretty good for the Modern Warfare lines. Um,
Do you think I would like the store, like the campaigns in these games?
it's not overly complicated. It's very action movie ish.
No, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Do you think
I
my
say
dislike of the gameplay would take away from the campaign? I guess is
yes.
the
I think
question.
so. I think
Okay.
so. Yeah, it's very Twitch shootery. They try
Hmm.
to be tactical in the the NPCs try to be tactical and try to get you in tactical stuff. I think Modern Warfare 2019 did a really good job. You might like that one. So if
Okay.
you can find that for cheap, play that,
Okay.
play that campaign, and then after that, yeah, just try the other ones. But Modern Warfare one was like very tactical, or they tried to at least give you the tactical feel.
Yeah.
I actually like that one a lot. Uh,
Okay.
yeah,
I might actually give it a shot. I've never even thought about playing COD for the campaign, but I do have to praise them for the fact that they're still doing it all these years later. Because this is a series that's they make their money on multiplayer.
yeah,
We all
exactly.
know that. They know that, but they still are making campaigns. And that like I appreciate that as much as I don't necessarily love COD. I do appreciate that they still put that effort in, to give people that, because I'm sure there are a lot of people who buy COD, play the campaign, and dip out like you. Um, so
Well, I think the Call of Duty in general was just mainly before it became this multiplayer phenomenon that Call of Duty 4 had. A
yeah,
lot of people don't understand. Like people just bought it for the single player. That was it. And then Call of Duty 4 kind of revolutionized the way Call of Duty will be perceived for generations to come. Um, but even that game, like the single player was really good and had memorable moments, like really good characters and everything of that nature. Modern Warfare 2, you know, a really cool character, something happens to a really cool character that you build a bond with, like, and something happened was with that character. That's why, if to be honest with you, if I was you, I would go back and play the older ones, like Call of Duty 4, like the
mm,
remastered version of them, because they keep the same
mm,
story elements.
mm-hmm.
But even because the remake, they change a lot of stuff. They keep like the same sort of the same stuff, but they change a lot of stuff. But in my opinion, if you haven't played Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare, and Modern Warfare 3, I would go back and play those. Because to me, those stories are still good to this day. I mean, it's going to be like dated Call of Duty stuff, but it's not nothing that's going to be crazy. It's going to be the same mechanics pretty much. But the story is actually really good. It's almost like a Jason Tom Clancy ish war time modern warfare shooter type story. Like it's really good in my opinion.
Okay.
And they have
Um,
twists and turns and everything like that. So that's why I do. That's why I love the Modern Warfare series just for the single player. I unfortunately, like I said, I've been checked out of the multiplayer for a while.
yeah, I kind of miss the FPS campaign.
Yeah,
I feel like that genre has become so multiplayer focused in the last 5-6 years that we've kind of, I don't know, we've kind of lost the FPS campaign, which I mean, I know there's games that still do it, but it's just not, I don't feel like it's that many anymore. There's a lot more third person shooters with campaigns, a campaign focus or campaigns than I'd say first person at this point.
yeah. The first person ones are like Far Cry and games
Yeah.
like that. That's like a first person campaign. I've
Yeah,
been
and that's
actually thinking.
not like Far Cry is not what I'm talking about, man. I'm talking about like a level based campaign.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like Far Cry
Have
is
you
like a
tried the
fucking open world game.
Wolfenstein games?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, those are level based.
Or Doom. Doom would be another good one.
Yeah, Doom would be another one too. I actually really like Wolfenstein. I need to play Wolfenstein too. Um, but yeah, Wolfenstein was a really good game. I think that's
Yeah.
you can get that for like $15 or something like that, $10 on Steam or some shit like that. You probably like it.
Yeah.
It's not super serious, but it's not like I don't know, it's just a fucking campaign. It reminded me of like the olden days of like when I was playing GoldenEye and Duke Nukem and shit like that, like those campaign type level based games.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean they're out there. You just gotta look for them now. But yeah,
Well, there's like
but
I don't know if this isn't first person actually, but I was thinking of like Tech Ops: The Line. Sorry, Spec Ops: The Line. Tech
yeah,
Ops.
Spec Ops.
Spec Ops:
Yeah,
The Line. Yeah.
yeah, we don't get games like that anymore. And I feel
Right.
like Call of Duty was like the last bit of those like intense war story type games. Um, and which is why also like I like Battlefield 2 so much, Battlefield 1 and 2, because they followed like these soldiers who went AWOL and were trying to get like gold and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it was just like it was a wacky crew, and they were like, just trying, they were tired of the military, and shit like that. And it was just a really cool like story. And they just don't do shit like that anymore. Like it's all serious and everything like that. I don't know. It was just really weird. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, Montreal, let's move on to our final. I'm not going to call it a story, but topic of the day is so this has been going around for a while, right? Baldur's Gate 3 has been in a news cycle for several weeks at this point. And this I pulled this tweet thread up because this is kind of what originated this whole conversation, but this conversation has continued since this tweet thread. And I continue to see it on YouTube and all over the place, right? And I don't think we ever really talked about it, so I kind of want to. Is this idea of should Baldur's Gate 3's quality raise the bar for other AAA games? Now, obviously, we're going to caveat here. Montrell and I haven't played the game, so we can't speak necessarily to its quality, but the idea of its quality, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
idea of a quality game raising the bar for other AAA games. That's more what we're going to be talking about here, not necessarily Baldur's Gate 3. But just to give the context, right? So there was this guy named I'm going to butcher this dude's name. Xavier Nelson Jr. He's at Rit
Xavier.
Nelson.
Xavier.
Okay.
Xavier.
There's an L in there.
Yeah, so I,
Uh,
I don't
I,
know how,
I
yeah,
don't know.
I don't know.
Xavier? I don't know. I told you I'm going to butcher his name. He's at Rit Nelson on Twitter. So he released this thread before the game came out. And he was talking about trying to temper expectations for Baldur's Gate 3, that we shouldn't be using. I'll just read his tweets here. So, quote, like a lot of people, I'm deeply excited about what the lovely folks at Larian accomplish with Baldur's Gate 3, but I want to gently, preemptively push back against players taking that excitement and using it to apply criticism or a raised standard, quote unquote, to RPGs going forward. You can't separate a game from the process used to build it. So let's look at what Larian is taking into the development and final version of this game. One, dev cycle stretching back to 2017. Two, two massive games and their definitive editions worth of tech and institutional knowledge to draw from. Three, super successful early access period lasting 3 years, providing crucial community feedback, bug hunting, and cash flow. Four, over 400 developers in 7 different offices around the world, not including outsourcing partners. Five, the license, brand, and world of one of the largest entertainment IPs in the world, D&D, at the apex of its popularity with the rise of the actual play movement in the movie. And I'm going to end there. So end quote. And there's more. He keeps going.
Well,
But
just
that's
read
kind
the
of the.
read the read the TRDL or
Oh yeah,
TLDR
here we go.
rather.
So yeah, quote, as a TLDR, in an era of mega games, Baldur's Gate 3 is one of the largest attempted, built by a specialized group of people using mature tech, specially built to make this specific game, and reinforced by invaluable mass player feedback and market validation ahead of its launch.
Yeah, and this should not be the baseline for RPGs. This is an anomaly. Trying to do the same, especially without the same advantages, will kill the entire groups of studios. And he says like the bigger they are, the harder they fall, and blah 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 blah
Yep. End quote.
blah.
Well, one more thing here. He says if they go as big or bigger in their next with their next title, Larian themselves could die. That's the risk and reward of the mega game. End quote. So we'll end there. So, Montreal. So, what do you think about this specifically, and just the kind of the topic at hand?
I think he makes good points, but I can counter each point.
Yeah,
And I
I
wish I saw
agree.
this earlier, so I can like kind of go back and forth with him on Twitter because he seems like a cool dude to engage with.
Yeah.
Um, but one of my key points he says here was that stuck out to me. It was two things. Uh, two massive games, the definitive studios worth the tech, institutional knowledge to draw from, and a super successful early access. um, remember when games had really good betas? You remember
Yeah.
that when it was a beta was
Oh
actually a
yeah.
beta, and then the game wouldn't come out for like at least another year.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Blizzard was known for this shit, dude.
yeah. So that's where I push back on because we don't do that anymore. Now we use beta as an early access, but we use it in the most
Well, we use it
positive.
to sell the game.
Yeah, we use it in the most negative way possible.
Yeah.
When betas come out, they're always now they don't even call them betas anymore. They just call them network tests. Um, uh, and I don't think this just applies to RPGs. And I think that's another point that he needs to like tone it down on. This doesn't apply to RPGs. I think this should apply to all games, all major AAA games. Every time I read about Baldur's Gate, every time I hear somebody plays about Baldur's Gate, I'm like, wow, this is a AAA game. Like, this is what we all been wanting for the last 10 years in a
Yeah.
AAA game.
Yeah.
You don't even have to be. There are people who don't even like D&D or like CRPGs or anything like that, and they respect the fuck out of this game
Bro,
because
CRPGs are popular now. That's what Baldur's Gate 3 has done. That's
yeah,
insane to me.
yeah, and there are people who haven't haven't even considered playing a game like this, and they're just like because the game is so well done, it's so the positivity around the game is so positive.
Mm.
The news around the game is so positive that they're just like, I'm gonna try it, and then people were saying like, I saw people say like, hey, the game's not for me. I played it a couple hours, but I get it. You know, like
Yeah.
that's for a player today to say, even on Twitter, something as toxic as Twitter, to say it's not for me, but I get it. The game is good. That means that's a certain level of maturity that you don't get out of games nowadays. 'Cause either people are, oh, it's just fucking trash, and I mean, sometimes I do it too. I'm like, oh, it's just fucking trash or whatever, and or it's a good game. Um, so the other point where he says two master studios worth of tech, their definitive edition is worth the tech. So I know he's talking about the Divinity and Divinity Original Sin 2.
Yeah.
And they use that tech or whatever. But my thing is like for a game like Destiny, right? I think that game was in development for like almost right after Halo Reach, I
Yeah.
want to say, or
Yeah.
maybe even before it. They've been working on it. Actually, no, it was Halo Reach because they had like Destiny logos in Halo Reach, hinting at the next game that they're making.
Yeah.
So they've been making this game for about uh since like '09 or whatever. And you have not only you may not be using the tech of Halo, but you have years and years of first person shooter experience. You know what a first person shooter is. So for you to drop a game the way you drop that game, and I love Destiny 1. But we can't deny the first 3 months of the game was like its absolute worst. That and I give them a lot of credit because that was the worst part of Destiny, the first 3 months. And then
Yeah,
after
but
that, it
yeah.
just took off. But to come out the gate swinging
Yeah.
and then you just miss like that,
Yeah.
um,
Well,
there's just no excuse for that, in my opinion. Like you have money behind you, and
yeah.
and the way he's reading this, it's like you would think we're talking about an indie studio having this type of like gamers having this type of
Which
expectation for indie studios.
Larian would have been considered an indie studio not very long ago. So
correct, yeah.
I just want to point that out.
Um,
I mean, they
but
literally are an indie studio. They are independent. They're not owned by anybody. So I just want to point that out. Like,
okay,
yes, they're
well,
making a AAA game, but like this is a studio that was not very large like 6-7 years ago.
yeah, and that even goes more to my point, in my opinion. That's taken away from his point that um that we shouldn't have these expectations for games. Like you remember when Mass Effect Andromeda was released, how bad that game was? Like not just like story, I'm not talking about story or anything like that. I'm talking about bugs.
But using like if he's arguing that here, I think that's an argument full of folly, right? That we should defend we shouldn't hold Mass Effect Andromeda to this kind of standard from a studio that made 3 Mass Effect games in like 5 years, you know? Like I like that makes no sense. Like I don't want to interrupt you though. Keep going.
No, I mean that's just to my point though. That's my main point is I don't care. I think point four has nothing to do with it. Like, yeah, for over 400 developers, that's even going more towards why you should expect games to be good. Because I mean, 400 developers, to be honest, like compared to like Final Fantasy 16, like that's nothing. You know what I'm saying? That's probably one of their divisions that was working on Final Fantasy 16.
Or fucking
Uh,
Rockstar, bro. Jesus Christ.
yeah,
Blizzard.
and large IP like these games that we have these expectations for come from large IPs, or they're building off the backs of it. Cyberpunk was building off the back of The Witcher, which is probably arguably the best IP of the last generation.
Well, that was that I would argue that was the last game that was like this.
Yeah, that was like this anticipated.
Well, this but ended up coming out and was this like this big of a game. Like was this popular and this well received and just like a fucking really good game, you know? Like
Yeah,
no bullshit either involved, no microtransactions or anything, right?
yeah, that's true. So I just I understand what he's trying to do, and I get it. We don't want to start because we know gamers can be really toxic, and we don't want to start like this war. We don't want to start a Gamergate 2.0, and I think that's what they're trying to prevent.
Yeah.
But
Good luck. You're not preventing that if it's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's inevitable at this point. I think Baldur's Gate, and it sucks to use it. It's going to be the opposite of Cyberpunk now. Cyberpunk was the antithesis of like what you should not do with the games, right? Now Baldur's Gate is going to be on the other side of that spectrum and be like, this is the standard now. Like how everybody when fucking Cyberpunk came out, and then everybody started doing letters on Twitter like, "Hey guys, we need a little bit more time and everything." I think why can't you guys, like, they weren't coming out and saying like, "Hey guys, we shouldn't do that," but then they were fucking tearing CD Projekt Red's a new asshole. So why are we like? I don't know. They're not defending Larian, but they're like defending other developers, and it's just so fucking weird to me. It's so fucking weird. So yeah, you can go. I mean, that's pretty much what I had to say.
To talk specifically about his tweets, I'm sure this guy probably has mixed feelings about expressing this on Twitter. You know, maybe some regret, because this is the issue with talking about shit on Twitter. To me, is you have to make it 10 tweets and then you miss tons of nuance because you know you can't write that much. Because like if you go into each point, right, like to your point, you could refute each point. In my opinion, most of the things he even mentions here aren't unique to Larian. Like there's plenty of devs these things apply to, like a dev cycle stretching back to 2017. Okay, I mean there's tons of games that have 6-year dev cycles, like fucking all of them at this point, basically. I mean we're talking about Suicide Squad. That game's going to be a flaming pile of dog shit probably, and that game's had a fucking 8-year dev cycle. So what's their excuse, you know? And that's what he's trying to tell us not to like put on them. But why? But that's my question. Like fucking why should I not put like, because to my point, Larian is an indie studio. Okay. I know this is a AAA game that had a lot of money behind it, but it's an indie studio. They don't have a giant fucking publisher behind them, bankrolling them the way Rocksteady does. Like, so like to me, we should be holding Rocksteady to the higher standard, not Larian. Like, what are you talking about? Like, that's fucking insane. And then, you know, the two games is not. It's a good point. You know that they had two games to kind of build to this moment, but that's a studio running itself well. They know what their lane is. They're making games within their fucking lane. You know, like, and then guess what? They made 2 quality games before this. Like it's not like this is something new for them. They've been building to this point. So like if studios operate themselves appropriately, they'll get there. Like to your point about Destiny, Destiny wasn't a good game at launch, but you know what was good about Destiny? The gameplay. That's what, you know, they'd been building that for years with Halo. Like their gameplay, their engines, the way they make their mechanics with as a shooter, the game fucking played excellently, you know, at launch.
Yep.
It's just the problem with the game was content.
Yep.
RPG systems, like the way all that shit worked. That was the problem with Destiny 1 when it launched. So, and those are the things they didn't know how to do, you know?
Yeah,
So,
and you know what? I will even push back on myself for that. That is a really good point. This probably was their first RPG that they were doing and making content for the game. However, we can give Destiny 1 a pass for that.
yeah. Well, they
I
got
can't
there eventually too, right? Over many
exactly.
DLCs. So,
Yeah, and
I'm
it took like half a year for them to get there. Like they had quality DLCs for Destiny, but I can't excuse Destiny 2 though, like at all. You
exactly,
had the tools.
absolutely. That's where I disagree with this guy on that. Like, if you're gonna apply this logic to Destiny 2, Destiny 2 is worse than Destiny 1, not in terms of gameplay or systems or anything like that, but the fact that it was also lacking content. It was inexcusable in my opinion.
Yeah,
And is what drove me off the game, because I'm like, you guys just released Destiny 1 again. Like, what the fuck is this shit? You know?
exactly.
You got like 3 planets and a 20-hour campaign, and there's nothing to fucking do. You got like 5 strikes, and go run those same strikes every fucking, like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, what the, like, you made millions and millions of dollars off the first Destiny. Are you fucking with me right now? Like, it was inexcusable. You know?
So I did send this video to you. It was on TikTok, like the web
Yeah.
version of TikTok. I don't think you could have watched it,
Mhm.
but I did like his point. So these string 8 tweets came out way before Baldur's Gate released.
Yeah,
and I think
like a month before the game came out.
yeah, and I think his point was to temper expectations because this is an indie studio, right?
Yeah.
And it is a do or die system, and I remember watching this video, and he said this can like make or break the genre. That's how big this game was.
Yeah.
And I was really scared too for Baldur's Gate because I remember me. I was kind of like pessimistic. I'm like, I don't know, man. Like
I wasn't
this can
scared at all.
this can make or break the game and everything or make or break the franchise, and everything like that. And I was agreeing with his points on that. And I agree with him to this day on that. Like, there are certain genres like Final Fantasy 16 could have, even though it's a well-established genre, the character actions space, that could have made or break that space if that game was like severely bad. You know what I'm saying? Like people
I just would argue that the CRPG space was nobody even knew what it was. Nobody talks about these games. Nobody plays these games. Influencers don't even know what the fuck. Like, dude, they think Baldur's Gate 3 is like the fucking, like, there are tons of these games from 20 or 30 years ago, and they're fucking all just as good as this, by the way. A lot of them are probably just as good as this. I haven't played the game, so I can't speak to it, but I have played CRPGs that have incredible stories, incredible branching narratives, branching conversation trees, decision trees, and these games are from the 90s. So, like, I am going into this game expecting a really, really great game, but I'm also probably going to come on this podcast and tell you guys, like, I've played this game before, and yes, it's excellent, and this is a really high bar, but like, studios have done it before, and I think the industry acting like this is something new is like kind of annoying to me. That you've like this shows the lack of exposure a lot of people have to older games, you know, and even people that are our age or older haven't played a lot of these games because they were on PC exclusively, you know. And I'm talking about like Neverwinter Nights and shit like that. The old Baldur's Gates, especially Arcanum, fucking like all there's tons of 90s Sierra games of this style. Fallout, the old Fallout games, like Fallout's hilarious to me. Everybody acts like Fallout, like it's like Fallout 1 and 2 don't even fucking exist to the video game industry, you know? Like, no one talks about it. I have never heard a single fucking influencer talk about playing those games in my entire life, like watching and absorbing games content. So, like, that's why this whole conversation I find is really funny, because it's like, my expectations aren't that Larian made it hit a new quality bar. My expectation is that they hit a quality bar that hasn't been hit in 20 years, you know? For a genre that has hit this quality bar before. It's just been forever and nobody's played those games, you know? So that's kind of my perspective on this. That's why this whole conversation I find really funny, because I think people are freaking out about nothing. It's like we've had these games before in a time when it was hard, like borderline harder to make games, you know? And make immersive games on top of that, right? Like, So to me, I think like his points, a lot of his points make sense, right? The early access period, number 3, like having a 3-year early access period. That one, I'm like, dude, anybody can do that. Like, why don't you fucking just do it? Like, you can have an early access period, go for it. It was super risky for them to do that actually with a game like this. That's weird for like an RPG, single player RPG, to have early access. That's usually reserved for like multiplayer games or online games of some sort, like MMOs or live service games or indie games specifically that are very, very small and need money. That's
Yeah.
usually what early access is reserved for. But they did it with a big AAA, RPG, single player RPG, and it worked clearly. And there's no problem for that. But that's my thing is like, it's not like Larian had like some genius idea here. Like, other people can do this, it's available to you. Steam has a whole early access feature set in it, like you can release your game in early access. It's not, so that one I'm like, whatever. But then number 4, 400 developers in 7 different offices. Okay, they're a big studio. All right. I mean, like, that's a problem in some way. Like, yes, a lot of studios aren't gonna have that. But if you're going after an indie dev for not making a game of as high quality as Baldur's Gate 3, you're a fucking idiot anyways. Like, what the fuck you, like, come on, dude. Like, that's not even an argument. And then the license. This is the one that I do agree with a little bit. They do have the D&D license and the Baldur's Gate 3 license to lean on. That kind of lends itself to an easier time for them to make a quality game. They're not building everything from scratch, right?
Understandable.
So that's the one point that I definitely agree on for sure. But at the same time, I don't think I want to get away from Baldur's Gate 3 though here and like kind of transition into more about talking about this in general, right? Like holding companies to certain standards. And this
Well,
is the
yeah,
reason
because like the other video from IGN that got praises across the board.
Destin.
Yeah, Destin. Yeah.
Is to me it's like these companies are selling you a product, okay? And I don't know why there's so much analysis in games media that ignores that fact that you're being sold a product. And when it comes from certain companies, you should expect a certain quality standard. Like, I'm going to use Blizzard as an example, right? Now, we as gamers have lived with Blizzard for the last 20 years, and their decline, and specifically the last 15, and we know what to expect from them at this point. I should have known better with Diablo 4. And for whatever reason, I was hoping that the game would be of a higher quality than it ended up being, right?
Yeah, exactly.
However, in my opinion, that does not excuse Blizzard for what happened with that game or what is currently continuing to happen with that game. They're a huge fucking studio, part of a gigantic mega conglomerate that just got sold for fucking $67 billion. Like, there's no fucking excuse you can give me that explains why it's okay for them to release that fucking game the way it was released. Okay, fuck that shit. And you're gonna tell me it's a $70 fucking game. It's got a fucking battle pass. It's always online. Like, what the fuck? What are you talking about? Like, there's no fucking world where there's an excuse for that shit. Okay, and I don't want to fucking hear it. And this goes for other companies too. Like HoYoverse at this point, they're so successful. I don't give a shit what you tell me. Like, if they release a game that's subpar or a patch that's subpar, I don't care what your excuse is. You are making billions of dollars a year, okay? Billions of dollars. You could hire a fucking army to make your game better. Like, I don't want to hear it, okay? Yeah, sure. If we're talking about an indie dev of 15 people and they're barely funding their fucking game, of course I'm not going to hold them to the same standard. This is where the argument falls apart for me. Is like there's no nuance there of like comparing the differences. That's kind of the point he's trying to get at, is that development is intrinsically linked to its situation, but he doesn't really get into that at all into what he's arguing, and that's like the main crux of the whole argument to me is, yeah, there's some studios you can definitely hold to the standard. And I don't want to sit here, like, I don't like the idea of making a blanket statement like, let's not use Baldur's Gate 3 as a reason to raise the bar. Yeah, for certain companies, it definitely should raise the fucking bar, the same way The Witcher did. Fallout 4 was inexcusable next to The Witcher 3. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. Like, are you kidding me? Like, it was a joke. Like, CD Projekt Red wiped the fucking floor with Bethesda, with that game the same goddamn year. Like, it came out earlier than Fallout 4. So yes, you can compare those things, okay? And there definitely can be expectations of a certain level of quality from certain companies. Like, I just like anything that is bigger, that is not independent, in my opinion, that is like making millions or hundreds of millions or God forbid even billions of dollars, bro, you shouldn't be releasing a game that's bad. Like, there's no excuse for it if you're making that much money off something that you've made, like Epic. The next game they make, dude, I'm sorry, there's expectations that come with being Epic, like that is just a thing. Like, you don't get to have the success that you've had with Fortnite and then release your next game and it's dog shit. Like, you don't get to do that. Like, in my opinion, I don't think that's acceptable personally. Especially if you're going to charge people money for it, which all these games do. They're all products, right? So
Yeah. Yep.
I don't understand where this has come from, where there's this army online that defends these companies to the ends of the fucking earth, when you are literally a siphon for them to make money. Like, they don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about your opinion. They don't care about the fact that you're a fanboy for their fucking game. They just want to make as much money off you as possible. And yet you're out there defending them on Twitter, screaming at people that call games out for being bad or having issues. Like, there's all these Blizzard defenders out there. And I'm like, what is wrong with you people? Like, demand more. This is a company that's made billions of dollars over the course of its existence. Like, I'm sorry, there's no excuse for Diablo 4 being so subpar. None whatsoever. And the fact that they are struggling so hard to fix it is just laughable to me. Like, unbelievably laughable. Like, and I don't want to be mean to the team, to the devs, what
See,
have you, but at the
that
same time,
you shouldn't, in my opinion. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead. I've been talking for like 10 minutes, so go ahead.
That right there really pisses me off.
Yeah.
Just because you criticize the game doesn't mean you're being fucking mean to the developers.
Absolutely.
When we criticize a movie, we're not saying, all the people who worked on a movie are fucking bad people. It's just a bad fucking movie. Maybe the writing was bad. Maybe the camera shot was bad. Maybe something, it just didn't click that time. But then that's those same group of people can go and make another movie and make it good. I think Zack Snyder is one of the prime examples of that. People don't really like the DC movies, the Zack Snyder DC cuts, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if we talk about 300, we talk about Sucker Punch. Oh my God. Or not Sucker Punch, but what's the other game? The movie that he made, was it Sucker Punch?
It was, it was Sucker Punch.
It was Sucker Punch. Okay, because I'm thinking about the studio name Sucker Punch too, right?
Yeah,
there's a studio name. So, okay, yeah. So people love those movies, and those are legitimate good movies. Like, I'm not going to take that away from Zack Snyder at all. So it's like with video games, though, we can't do that, and I feel like I keep going back to Gamergate because I really want, like, if some of our younger listeners, I really want y'all to go back and like look at the history and look at it, because if you look at the history, you're going to get like one side of it. I promise you are. I need you to look at all sides, like the bad side. There was conservative, there's left wing side, there was like, the men versus women side. You have to look at it from all angles. There's developers versus the gamers and everything like that. And you have to really see where this bred from. And this is where this mentality came from, in my opinion. I think Gamergate was the catalyst that broke that shit. Because it was a point to where like Mass Effect 3 happened, right? And people were like sending cupcakes to the studio and sending death threats to the studio and shit like that. That was toxic as fuck.
That was insane. Yeah.
But in the same instance though, it was like, I don't know, maybe the gamers, that was like legitimate, right? That was like legitimate criticism. I mean, not legitimate criticism, but that was like legitimately like a problem that was happening, because people were invested in these stories, these video games, and they felt like it was their IP, it was their property and everything of that nature. So you had to like kind of reel that in. It's like, hey, this is not these are real people, real human beings, or whatever. And I get that, and I feel like we're so into that point though. Like it's like the pendulum swing, like you always say, the pendulum's so far to like the left or whatever, the right or whatever the fuck, like where yes, we see these developers as human beings, but these publishers are not human beings. I think they are human beings too, but like these publishers and these executives running these companies, these are not the same companies that were 20 years ago. Blizzard, I don't think necessarily Blizzard was still on its own, but it was still like
They
a
weren't.
video game company.
They were owned by Vivendi.
Vivendi
before Activision.
But they still had like their own autonomy, in my opinion. Like they weren't being controlled by like
Yes, they definitely did. They weren't as influenced. They were not influenced the way they are now by Activision. Like when they were under Vivendi, it was kind of funny. I remember like it wasn't like a good perception being owned by Vivendi, but at the same time, like they were autonomous though. They got to do their own shit as long as it was making a fuck ton of money, which it was. So like, Blizzard's so specific. I don't know. We could fall into a rabbit hole talking about them, but I just want to say again, like, to what Montrell was saying, like, you can criticize a company, you can even criticize devs, which I would criticize devs in the case of certain games. But when I'm criticizing the game, I'm talking about the company's failure, right? Like Blizzard's failure as a group. That's everybody, the leadership, the developers, everything, all of that. That whole soup together created Diablo 4, and there may be specific reasons for that within that soup. Certain people, decision makers, budgeting reasons, all that shit could be true, but like we don't know those things, so it's going to be generalized, right? I'm talking about Blizzard. Blizzard failed with Diablo 4. Like that's what I'm talking about, right? And that's the part. Like it's unacceptable though for a company that large to do that in my opinion.
Yeah, and I just don't understand where the defense force is coming in. I don't understand where the industry, where these. I understand like
these are people that need to grow up. They're not that, dude. I'm just gonna be straight up. I'm not even gonna mince fucking words. They need to grow the fuck up and become adults. Like straight up, they don't understand shit. These people. And there's so fucking many of them that I'm so tired of this shit online. These people are dude, like Twitter has given all these people a voice. And I'm sorry. They just don't understand the fucking way anything in the world works. They either live in a bubble or they never grew up. Like they didn't have to go through being an adult in a real way. Or they're going through being an adult in a way and they fail at it. They literally are so like they don't understand it so to such a degree that they're not capable of understanding like the world in that way. Like, cause dude, if you're defending corporations like this, and I'm sure there are instances where I would defend a corporation, but I'm saying in the way we're talking about the fanboyism, right? That is such an immature, childish way to view anything in the world, dude. And I apply this to sports teams, video games, products, whatever things you like in general. Like the idea that you can't separate your like from the ability to criticize it is insane. That is literally like high school shit. That's being a high schooler. I did that shit in high school. Montrell did that shit in high school, and we grew up. Like we grew out of it. We're not that way anymore. We are able to analyze things and critically analyze these things to understand what is happening with them. And talk about them in a somewhat objective way, not letting our subjectivity rule the way we feel about things,
Yeah.
And I'm just so tired of how many people there are out there that can't do that. Like they literally can't do it. Like the Sony fanboys or the Xbox fanboys or whatever fucking fanboys you want to talk about, Blizzard, whoever, it doesn't matter, or like sports team, people who are fans of sports teams, like, dude, bro, if you're being toxic to somebody on another fan base because of the rivalry or whatever, you're a fucking loser. Like straight up. It's sports. It's not that serious. You're not going to fucking war. It's like, dude, like I would never. This is why I stopped being a fan of a specific team. To be straight up with you, I used to be a fan of the Patriots, the New England Patriots in the NFL, right? And I'm sure, like, that probably would make certain people have a visceral reaction. That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's the reason I stopped being a fan of the New England Patriots, because I would literally meet people in real life and I would get shit for being a Patriots fan. And I just got tired of it. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? I'm just trying to watch football. I don't give a shit. Like, I don't care that Cowboys fans fucking hate Patriots fans. I don't give a shit that Jets fans hate Patriots fans. Like, I don't fucking care. Like, I'm just trying to enjoy the goddamn sport, you know? So that's what I did. I stopped watching the Pats. I stopped being a fan, and now I'm just an NFL fan. And like, it's so much better. It is so much better doing that than the way it used to be. Because I'd tell somebody, "Oh, I'm from Boston. You know, I like the Patriots," and it would be like, Patriots, man. Silver spoon, motherfucker, winning all these champions. Like, what the fuck, dude? I'm just a fan of a sports team. Like, what the fuck? Like, I can't control what they're doing. You know?
Well,
Like,
I think my thing is
shit.
like with the current, not necessarily the fanboys. It's just I'm more so fanboys are going to be fanboys.
I know. I wish they wouldn't though.
Yeah,
That's my problem. Like,
the
take a
problem
step
is like
back.
we
and grow
can't
up.
we shouldn't be accepting that, and I
No.
definitely 100% agree with you. But my thing is like I feel like gaming journalism or the media in general are
Yeah.
such simps for the
Yeah.
media or
Oh,
for
yeah.
the industry.
Yeah.
I just remember when people used to actually give good reviews, push back against stuff. Why is this like this? Why is that like this? Or whatever the
Yeah.
case may be. And in some respects, it's almost like the sports, like what I'll say, sports media still pushes back on like certain stars and certain teams and stuff like that. And I
Dude, the
respect
sports
it.
media is so much better than video game media.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, I mean, hate him or love him, I think like Stephen A is one of the most entertaining ones because he doesn't show loyalty to
Yeah, man.
anybody
Yeah.
as far as that. And I don't know, like when I look at games media though, it's like there's such, and I'm just gonna say it. They're such bitches. Like I don't mean that in like the they don't have any backbone anymore. Like when this game released, why were there hundreds of people? Like I'm not even kidding, hundreds of games media people or even people in the industry going, instead of like giving the game its just desserts, they're like, hey guys, don't expect this from every game. What?
No, it was like almost like a hate campaign. It was weird. That's what this kicked off, and that's why this like tweet thread frustrated me, because I'm like, dude, you're like almost trying to like take the achievement away from them. Like, he's not doing that, but other people started like you're saying, like jumping on that bandwagon almost, and yeah, that.
Yeah, and I think the point of his tweet was like to temper expectations from what was coming out, what was going to be coming out. But like what I was reading, the game was already out, and people were like, "Yo, this is a quality game." And people were like, "Hold on there, let's not expect that from every AAA game, or let's not expect that from the industry." And it's like, why are y'all? It was just so weird to me. It was the most weirdest thing I've ever seen. Like I haven't seen it since like, to be honest with you, Elden Ring. Elden Ring did it. And it wasn't like the quality of the game. People were praising the game. It was what was it? It was like the difficulty or the boss design or something, or the way the world was designed or something like that. And developers are like, oh, it was like the Ubisoft. You remember we had the article about the Ubisoft developer who was like legitimately upset and mad that people were like,
that's right. Like the Horizon dev, or
it was the Horizon dev. It was the Horizon dev. Yeah.
Oh man, dude.
Yeah, and they were like legitimately upset that people were praising the way they did, way Elden Ring did map design, and I'm like,
the UI,
the UI of the map design, and I was like, what? Like,
it's because they don't want to be held to that. They don't want to be held to that standard. And this is what ultimately I think it comes to, is that I think a lot of people in the industry are threatened by games this good because they can't make a game this good. You know, like that's the reality. And whether, I'm not saying as an individual you can't make a game this good, I'm saying that in the situation you are in, you cannot make a game this good, you know? And it might not necessarily be your fault or even your company's fault per se, depending on, you know, if you're being ruled over by a publisher or something like that. But at the same time, like, gamers aren't going to care. But this is my point ultimately, is that they shouldn't care. You know, you may feel like it's unfair that you're going to be held to this standard when you're in a situation where you can't meet that standard. But if you're working for a company that has the resources where they should be able to expend enough to meet this standard, sorry, I don't really
Yeah,
feel that bad, you know?
and
Like,
like this is where the conspiracy theory shit comes in, right? Because I feel like executives literally told developers, "Hey, get online right now and tell them they can't expect this from us."
yeah,
Like that's what it
yeah,
seems like. I mean, I'm pretty
yeah.
sure that's not what happened, but I'm pretty sure
It
that's
might
exactly
be,
what it.
dude. There might be studios where that's happening. Dude, corporate culture is crazy. I like, I I will tell you what, corporate culture is the shit they will make people do is insane. I would not put it past certain companies.
Yeah, because it was just so weird when I started seeing that, and then the video that IGN video dropped, and people were like tagging him like, I can't I can't agree with this take, and I'm like, really, Corey? You can't agree? He had deleted the tweet, but like, you can't agree with a take
Wait,
of a
Corey
game?
Barlog?
Yeah, he deleted the tweet.
Oh boy.
But like, it's like you can't agree with that tweet, and and I just like I just seen so many people saying it, bro, and it was just so disheartening. Instead of just a developer and be like, like we need to step up our game or whatever, it was just like,
Yeah, right.
it,
Instead of taking what you could do, you know, from this game, like take what you can from this game and apply it to your game to make it better, you know, you're just going to try to take the game down. Like, I don't, that's such little people, like such a
yeah,
little,
you know what this reminded me of? So
it's a poor mentality to
it is
have.
a poor mentality, and it really pissed me off because I listen to a lot of hip hop, and about 10 years ago, Kendrick Lamar was on Big Sean's album or a song, and he dropped this verse called "Control." It was on Control, and he dropped this verse. He called out almost at the time every major rapper in the thing or whatever, and he said, "I got love for y'all, but I'm trying to kill y'all at the same time." And it
Mm-hmm.
was pretty much just saying like, I love y'all, like we're friends, but like when it comes to music, I'm trying to take all y'all's fans. Like that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make the
Yeah.
best music possible.
Yeah.
And instead of people, and this is what I loved about that, right? Instead of people being like, he shouldn't have said that. Is he trying to start beef with me? Everybody was like, all right, I'm about to get in the studio right now and make the best album I can make or
Right. And
whatever.
that's the reaction you should have. That,
Exactly.
that ultimate, that's like, dude, that to me, this is the thing, right? With that, because this is really, I'm glad you brought that up because like people, I think it's complacency in the industry. I think there's a lot of people and companies complacent. The sales come to you easy. You don't
Hmm.
have to try that hard. You don't have to make a game that's as good as Baldur's Gate 3 or The Witcher 3. You don't have to because you're in a position where you have IP, you have money backing you, you have marketing, you have all these things. So you don't make a game that's as good as those. But you know what? Eventually you're going to get pushed out because your game is just not that good and people are going to leave you in the dust
Hmm.
ultimately, and they should, because if you really want to push the medium forward, which I feel like every developer should want, right? Ultimately
Yep.
is pushing the medium forward. Then you should have that energy. If somebody makes something like, holy shit, oh man, I want to go in and I'm gonna make this fucking dungeon the best fucking dungeon in any RPG, you know? Like that should be the fucking mentality you have. And it's like, dude, this is something I struggle with in my life, right? Because I don't always have that mentality, and I get it. So I understand. Like I'm not reacting that way all the time necessarily
Hmm.
myself, but dude, it's like at the same time though, if somebody calls you out and it's like legitimate reason to be called out, and I'm not saying Larian's calling anybody out, but like the game
They're
is
not.
doing that.
The game is just so good to where
It's
you have,
exposing things, right?
yeah, you have
You
to
should
step up your game. Yeah.
you should you should reflect on that and actually take a look and be like, oh shit,
Because have you
damn,
ever
they're
seen
doing
like a
this.
coworker or something
Yeah.
do it? They're not necessarily trying to take your job or anything like that. They may be in a different department, but they do something so good, or they have a good idea and they execute it out so well that you're like, wow, actually, I need to step up my game because
They
that.
make everybody else look bad because of the way they're doing something.
Yeah, but it's not in a bad sense. It's almost in an all inspiring way. Like you're like, I need to get that good. Like I need
Yeah.
to step my game up or whatever, or I become
Yeah.
complacent. And I feel like you said, I feel like the game industry has become really complacent. The last game to me that jump started like a lot of inspiration was Breath of the Wild. Uh,
Yeah,
like
I mean, no, it's a fair point though. Like, I agree. I totally agree with that. I totally agree
yeah,
with that.
like that was to me that was the last game that like jump started the industry, and people were like, "Wow, this is what we can do." Like, look at the technology they had, and they made this fucking game. Like, that's crazy. And even though
Kind of a
I
yeah,
don't like the game, I respect the game because it it pushed people forward. But I think it kind of pushed people forward and like trying to just mimic what they did. But other it pushed other genres for like in my personal opinion, I think without Breath of the Wild, there would never be an Elden Ring. Like that may be a hot take, but I think that team saw that game like we can fucking do this, but we can do it our way and we can make it better. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah,
Um and I think that's what people should look at Larian Studios. Like they should look at their games. It doesn't have to be the same genre. It should just be like, look at that game. Like to me, Final Fantasy 16 should have been that game that jump started people. I think for people in character action games, it kind of jump started them, and I'm like, they like, I can do better than this. I can make a better game than this. In my
mhm,
opinion, that's what it should have
yeah.
done. Um, I think people were gonna look at Larian Studios though. I think this is a direct call out to like BioWare, Bethesda,
Definitely, I was yes, Bioware for sure.
for sure. Like, I think this is like now you have to go hard or go home. There's no if Larian Studios can do this, there's no excuse. You have EA behind you, have money
I
behind
think
you.
that's actually that's ultimately my point, right? Like
Yep.
BioWare has no excuse. No offense. I don't give a shit what turmoil they've been through. I don't care. Like sorry, you're still selling me a product, you know? Like I
Yep.
don't go into the Apple store and spend $1,000 on an iPhone and come out and it fucking doesn't turn on half the time. I turn it on in the morning and go, "Oh well, that's okay." Like
They
fuck,
tried.
what the fuck
They
are you
tried.
talking about? Like
Yeah.
yeah. What's fuck that, dude? None of you would fucking accept that. So why are we doing it here? Like, why the fuck are we doing it here? Fuck that. Like, I hate that shit. This is why it annoys me so much. Is because you're gonna hold games to this standard of like, the poor devs. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, yes, there's plenty of things we can talk about with devs. You know, things need to be improved for devs. I'm not gonna argue that, but at the same time, we're still being sold products by companies. You know, and it's like when something's being sold to you, it should be scrutinized for what the value proposition is of that thing, you know? I'm sorry. Like that's just the way capitalism ends up working, you know? There's a transaction that happens, and if I'm not happy with what I get in return for the money I'm giving you, I'm going to say something, you know? Like I'm not going to give you money again the next time you come to me. It's like with a product. It's just so I think it's just people like lose sight of that whole thing so much. They get so wrapped up in the emotional side of this discussion where it's like, oh, devs are, the crunch and devs aren't paid enough and all, and they're treated like shit by their companies and they work for garbage companies like Blizzard where they harass women. We get so wrapped up in that emotional side of this, but it's like that's not like I get so annoyed with this in politics too, where everybody gets so focused on that, right? The social side of all this of everything happening when there's like there's like the real economics and the financial side that it's like you just can't ignore that. Like that all exists in the same pot and soup that all the other stuff does, you know? You
Yeah,
can't just take those
exactly.
things out. Like they exist in our lives, in our society. You can't just ignore them. So we can't do that here either, you know? So it's yeah, I don't know. It's it's a frustrating conversation because like
No
I just
one
think I think the industry, like for whatever reason, the industry doesn't I get the vibe that I think a lot of developers don't necessarily want to like be held accountable for the things that they make, you know?
yeah. I think another point is, I mean, which is I think is a valid point. Like they have these executives and the shareholders over their head, so they may want to
Yeah.
make something creative and crazy and everything like that. But they have, is it going to sell money? Can we put a battle pass on it? How much money do you
Yeah.
think it's going to make? And it's like
Right.
I don't know. I just thought it was like a really cool idea. Like To me, Ratchet and Clank, if that came out today, they would shoot that shit down. Crash Bandicoot, all these like platforming games. Can we put a battle pass on it? No, but it's it's a wombat and a fucking robot, and they're like fucking going on space adventures with
Bro,
each
yeah,
other.
we're gonna sell it for $30, and dude, it cost 20 million to make. Like, it
And
doesn't
they're
have to
like,
make $1 billion. You know, like, calm down.
they're gonna be like, no, like, why would we want to make that game?
Oh,
Like,
every game should make $1 billion. What are you talking about, Justin? What the
yeah.
fuck?
So, so I will put a lot of the blame too on like the executives and like the shareholders and everything because it does hinder
Yeah.
creativity.
Mhm.
But I feel like there are enough developers in the industry though to where they can counter that and be like, listen, we're gonna do this shit, and if we fail, we fail, but we're gonna fucking do it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just have a fucking developer strike or something. I don't know, like do the fucking writer's strike. Like, look at the writers right now, bro. They're just like, we want our money. Like,
They're gonna let the whole industry burn.
yes, exactly. And
Yeah. And the
I
executives there are shitheads.
exactly. And I feel like a lot of the game industry right now is just really complacent. I feel like and the industry itself is complacent, and then as far as like the media critiquing them and like honest podcasts and everything like that, this is why I feel so bad for uh I forgot his name, Moriarty.
Oh,
uh
Colin? Yeah.
Colin.
Colin
Like, I feel
Moriarty.
like
Yeah.
he was like one of the last beacons of like actual criticism for
Yeah.
stuff like that, and then he got pushed out obviously because of his I think he was like right leaning or whatever the fuck. Like,
Yeah, I mean, he's not part of the hive mind.
yeah, he's not part of the hive mind. And like he got pushed out because of that, in my opinion. And but also like I feel like when I listen to like certain podcasts and everything like that, it's very rare now that I listen to podcasts anymore about
Mhm.
video games because I feel like the shit they say about like so far as giving criticism is purposely trying to gaslight me. Like I be listening, I'm
Yeah.
like, I am getting gaslight lit right now, and I'm just gonna turn it off because
Mhm.
there is no way you think this way. Like a lot of people are purposely obtuse, and it
Yeah.
really irritates me, and they think we're stupid. And I'm kind of I kind of just don't like that. I don't like to say stuff like that because I do want to listen to these insiders, people who have inside knowledge of the game and everything like that. But I can't help when I watch them, I'm like, oh, who they're gonna shield for today. Like,
Yeah.
that's
What
to me,
agenda
that's
are they gonna push? Yeah.
yeah, like I shouldn't be thinking like that. I should be thinking about the video game or whatever the case. And it's just like we don't get that. And I saw it when Baldur's Gate came out. No one's talking about, first of all, how this is the most progressive character creator in all of mankind
That's ever been made, probably.
that's
Well,
ever been made.
Cyberpunk wasn't
Oh yeah,
Cyberpunk pretty legit
Cyberpunk
in
was
that
pretty
way too?
creative as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean that game fucking sucks. But to this point, yes, you're right.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But
I
like,
can't wait. I just want us to get popular so you can die on that hill. You will die.
but like no one's talking about how it's like the most progressive character creator, and like I saw some takes about like stuff like that. They're like, well, how come this game's getting away with it, but other games did it? And it's like, bro, they're getting away with it because it's a good story. They're not making that the main focal point. Like, you can have stuff like this in your games. That's what I've been trying to tell people. You can have like you can have trans people, you can have black people, you can have Asian people, different ethnicities
Yeah.
and stuff like that in your
Yeah.
games, as
Yeah.
long as it's written well. If the story is not like, oh, I'm a struggling black man from the projects of the ghetto, and I'm from Detroit, and people are like, bro, what? Nobody care about that. Like,
But
can I shoot people?
dude, you're so right. I was thinking about this, right? Why do people get so mad about there being like black elves in like the Lord of the Rings show or whatever, Rings of Power? It's because people think the show sucks, not
Yeah,
necessarily because they're mad about black
elves.
black elves in the show. Because I was thinking, dude, I didn't realize this, but Nick Fury in the comics for Marvel is not black.
No, he's not.
And literally,
just-
I've never heard anybody bring that up
They
until
just
very
gave it to
recently.
Samuel L. Jackson. Did such a good job. People were just like, whatever. He's he's
Dude,
fucking Nick Fury now.
and that's exactly the point, right? So this is, you're totally right, dude. This comes down to like, if it's done well, nobody's gonna care.
Bro, there wasn't a purple lightsaber in Star Wars, but
Yep.
he was so good as Mace Windu, no one gave a fuck.
Yep. Right.
You know, so it's like it's not the character or their color, right? It's just how that character is written. Like
Yeah.
this is the point. I mean, I know we're going on a tangent here, but like this is the point. Like with Star Wars too, right? People think like they try to do low hanging fruit, and this is what I'm talking about. Where I'm trying to really back into me being like triggered and like gaslit. I was listening to a Star Wars podcast, and people were like, "Oh, well, you know, a lot of Star Wars fans, like, and even I said it right, like Star Wars fans are racist and stuff like that. A lot of them are, but like, I'm a Star Wars fan at the end of the day. But I'm like, you got to understand. I also understand where that comes from because you have to look at what they try to do, right, with Star Wars. They had Ray, or they call them sexist too. They had Ray come out, right? And everybody was excited about Ray, but she's literally the worst written main character in all of Star Wars. Like, that is not an exaggeration.
Right.
Like, she is written. You can make Ray a dude, and that person, he would still be written terribly.
Yeah, it does not matter. There could be any sex, gender, fucking race,
But
whatever you want, and it would still be a bad character. Yeah.
yeah, so but this is where I think like it's low hanging fruit on both sides, right? So people will be like, "Oh, you guys hate her because she's a woman," and it's like, "No, I don't hate her because she's a woman." And then the other side is, "Wow, that character is really bad because they try to force gender on us and make her a woman and women's rights and all this stuff like that." And it's like, "No, that's not why the character's bad. Are you
Right.
serious?"
Right.
It's because of, say it with me now, bad writing. Like,
Right.
like that's the reason the character's bad. Like, it's not because she's a woman, and it's not because people hate women. It's because that character is just written bad.
Yep.
And that's what it is. And I feel like that's just the face of a lot of stuff. Like, you know, when you see a black elf or whatever, like you said, Lord of the Rings, right? It's not a good show, but people are just like, our brains are trying to like.
Hey, I liked it.
I liked it too. I loved it. I
We're
actually loved the
weird.
show.
We're both weird, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know why people don't like the show, but I liked it. But like the black elf thing was just like a catalyst for somebody like that's why the show was bad. Black elves, and it's like, no, the show's probably bad because it's not written in the way Tolkien has written the story. That's why you don't like it. It's not because of the black elves.
Right.
But like I don't know, like we can't get to that level of criticism because people don't want to get to that level of criticism in anything.
Agreed.
They don't want to have the nuance for these conversations. It's like when we're discussing why a game is bad. Oh, we hate the developers. That's why you think the game's bad. You hate the developers. It's like, no, maybe because I keep falling through the fucking floor every time I spawn. That's maybe why the game's bad. I don't fucking know. You know, like little shit like that. And we can't have those nuanced discussions about it. And I feel like Baldur's Gate really exposed that. Like, we need a lot more nuance in our discussions of video games and critiques in our video games and everything of that nature.
I agree. I mean, that's why we're here, Montrell. That's why we do this podcast, because we feel like other people don't fucking talk about this shit, you know?
Yeah.
In that same way. It's just a lot of surface level nonsense, you know? So
it's very frustrating. Very frustrating.
yeah. No, I mean, it is. I mean, we come on here every week and I feel like we talk about this stuff, and we have conversations that I feel like other people aren't having necessarily. We talk about some of the same topics, but it's like we're going in directions that I don't think a lot of other people go in, you know? And I do still like consume video game content, not necessarily podcasts. I've been doing a lot of YouTube lately.
Yeah, I do YouTube now. Yeah.
And I've been hearing a lot of takes, but it's just like, it's all the same shit, you know? It's just surface level, you know? It's like people like Asmongold, who he just got the same fucking take about everything, you know? It's like, you know, he's very like, he's super stubborn. He doesn't ever admit he's wrong most of the time about shit. So, you know, and Angry Joe's kind of that like same way, you know, like you know, he's gonna do his Madden video probably in a couple weeks, you know, and you know, I know we're both looking forward to that for Madden 24. But you know, he's got a position that he's coming from with everything he does, you know. So it's just it's fine. it's not necessarily a problem, but there's got to be some nuance to these conversations. And I agree with you. I think this is why I don't get on Twitter and I don't really interact on Twitter, because there's just no room for nuance on that platform. When you're trying to interact with people,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't have a conversation that way. I just can't. That's like going. Like I equate that that shit to going to a wedding and talking to people you're never gonna see again. About like your fucking career or some shit. It's just surface level bullshit that is meaningless. And I feel like that is what most of Twitter tends to be, unless it's like that. The only reason I go to Twitter now is for like goofy content, funny shit, dumb videos, or fucking gifs and images and memes and shit. Like that's the only reason I really go on there anymore. So I don't know. I mean, I don't totally disagree with these tweets that originally what we were talking about here. I think we both said there's some good points in here, certainly, but there's a lot of nuance in between the points being made that isn't really acknowledged. And I just think it leaves too much. It gives companies too much credit, in my opinion. I think the idea of it was to protect developers, and I don't disagree.
I don't think
with
they
that.
need to be protected. They're already protected.
I totally agree with that, and I think that's ultimately my problem with it is like that feels like the intent, and I just like I think we need to stop protecting developers. Like they need to hear some criticism. They're not perfect people. Like not every decision they make for their games they're making is good. There are times where the devs did mess up.
But I think that's the problem. I think they get into a bubble to where they make certain games. I can't really think of games right now. I mean, I'm sure if I look it up, there are like the bubble moments where developers get into a bubble and they make a game that's totally not what they want, what the fans wanted. I mean, to me, what we were talking about earlier was like League, right? I feel like those developers are not listening to feedback so much to where the game hindered. Like I was just like Tyler One, and he was talking about. He's like, the game has to be suffering for these changes. Like he's like, not only is it hard for new players to get in, but the game changes like almost every week. Because remember they started doing like every 2 weeks they're putting out a patch, and they're like, these are game changing patches, and it's just not realistic. Like, how do you keep up with that? How does a new player keep up with that?
Yeah. No, and I mean Apex is another one, right? They're in a bubble. They don't listen to players at all, dude. Like they've never listened to players. When players bring things up, they're like, "Oh, the data says this." And it's like oh, okay, but I play the game, man, and like this is what I'm experiencing. But the data, it's like you're the only one. There's 99.9% of other people don't experience. Like okay. I play with like 5 other people that experience this too, but sure, dude, your data says whatever it says. Okay. It's like that is the ultimate like bubble company, in my opinion. Like I feel like Respawn, they don't listen to the community, and the game has suffered for it, clearly, and it's it's a shame. Like you have to be able to receive feedback. I know there's a lot of dicks out there who say things in a really mean way, talk shit, send you death threats. Obviously that shit sucks, and I'm sure it's really hard to deal with all that.
But okay.
But
to be honest with you, right?
Yeah.
Stop being terminally online. Turn off the fucking computer.
I agree. That's probably part of their problem. Yeah.
Like,
for sure.
Just if it becomes like a huge issue where they're like, they know they're doxing you and stuff. All right, now we have a conversation. But if they're just like tweeting at you like, "Oh, you fucking suck and you deserve to die," bro, block them and move the fuck on. You know how many people I block on Twitter every day? I block so many people when I see a terrible take or like a super ignorant take that's not even worth discussing. I just block them because there's no point in discussing that because I know it's trying to trigger me or trying to get views or whatever the case may be. I just block it. And I feel like developers need to utilize the block function. Just block people.
Yeah.
Block their email. Stop being terminally online. Like, it works for both sides. Like, people who are sending all these death threats and all that shit, bro, walk outside and smell the grass. Like literally touch it. It's right there outside
Well,
your house.
I would also say that most of the people sending death threats are like 99.9% of them are probably keyboard warriors that literally wouldn't even talk to you if you were in person with them.
Exactly.
So, like, yeah.
Yeah. So like, I get that, but yeah, just stop being. Just, both sides need to just literally go outside and touch grass. Like, no one's gonna hurt you, bro. Like,
Yeah. No, it's
I don't
okay if
know.
people don't like your game, by the way. Like, not everybody has to like your game. You don't need to take it personally when someone doesn't like your game, you know? It is okay. Criticism is good. Criticism can be good. We can't grow without it, you know? So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a good discussion. I think we've gone long enough on this episode, but you know, I don't know. I've been seeing so much about it. I wanted to talk about the topic, honestly. And I think I'm tired of people making excuses for giant corporations that make more money than an entire city probably does in their lifetimes, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's just ridiculous to me. So tired of it. Felt like we needed to talk about it. All right, Montrell. Well, is there anything else you wanted to say before we go today?
Nope, that's it.
All right, fair enough. So, guys, if you like this episode, please like the show, review the show, and subscribe to the show on whatever feed you're listening to it on. And please share it with your friends. If you'd like to interact with us on Twitter, you can do so at iTrap for the Hokage for Montrell. That is the number 4, not the word. I'm at ThunderNut01, and the show is at the Player's Stake. If you want to send us a question, you can do so on Twitter, or you can send us an email to theplayerstake01@gmail.com. And guess what? If you're a dick to us, we're probably going to block you and move on, because that's what you should do. All right, everybody. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next week.